We are wrestling. We are wrestling podcast.
They give a shout out to We Are Wrestling on YouTube.
You're watching We Are Wrestling.
I'm the host with the most.
You are by far the least intelligent.
What's going on, everybody? Danny Huckins here, man. 1/3 of We Are Wrestling.
What's going on? We are Wrestling Maniacs Worldwide. Ben here, the third of the talk show.
We Are Wrestling Podcast.
Make sure to subscribe, baby.
We are wrestling.
What is up? We are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide. I'm the host with the most, Mr. We Are Wrestling himself, the best one, Donnie, here with...
What is going on, everybody? Danny Huckins here, man. 1/3 of We Are Wrestling. Me and Donnie running solo this week. Man, we're halfway through September. We have Grand Slam next week at Arthur Ashe Stadium. The pro wrestling world right now is absolutely insane, man. Shit's just blowing the fuck up.
Mind-blowing, man.
Like, every day this week, some kind of news has broken. I mean, we had the merger happen on Tuesday. You know, the final Vince McMahon, whatever, ran Monday Night Raw was on Monday.
This week, we have a jammed-packed episode. So much news. Free agents all over the place. Contracts are getting expired. Contracts are getting renewed. We're getting returns. We're getting new champions. We have a lot of crazy shit going on. But before we dive into all that, if you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already, and you're listening to the podcast, give us a 5-star review. Not just a 5-star review, but a best one review, and download the episode. But if you're watching this over on the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel and you're not a part of the thousands of subscribers, we recommend you to hit that subscribe button now. Turn on the post notifications. Videos be coming out of nowhere like an RKO. And of course, you already know the grind is real. And we got a lot of awesome content coming out to the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel. This Monday, Ben and I, we are going to be diving into the brand new Kurt Angle documentary. We pretty much, break it all down. So you guys have a couple days. If you haven't checked it out over on Peacock, go check it out. It's a great documentary. We dive into all the juicy details. And Hot Takes is back on the We Are Wrestling channel as well, where I give you guys my hot takes on things going on in the professional wrestling world. And it's very hot right now, man.
Things are really hot, man. But I figured, every week on the podcast, you always talk about, you ask me what my highlight of the week is and this and that, So I figured we could start there. And I was kind of curious because obviously you're going to have a small little vlog about it. And I talked a little bit about our experience a little bit on my streams this week. But on Saturday, man, we went out to Danvers, Mass. We went to the Silver Scream Con. You had the pleasure of meeting and getting photos taken with Chris Jericho, the Ayatollah of Rock and fucking Rolla, which was absolutely insane. I was going to film your interaction. Unfortunately, it was so hectic there,
I know.
Coming from every which way, I was unable to. But how was that experience for you, man?
It was very good, but also very awkward at the same time because I was running into problems with, my paint marker and stuff. So, it was a little awkward, but Jericho was a professional about it. I had a lot of things that were getting signed and, he could have been annoyed with, the way that my pens were, not working and stuff, but he really, took his time. He actually added, inscriptives onto, each figure that he signed for me. Because in case you guys don't know, you can tell with my background if you're watching this, I am a avid wrestling figure collector. I love, collecting my AEW figures in the packages, my WWE ones I like to let breathe, which I have a whole, personal channel where I do, toy hunts and I review, wrestling figures and Funko Pops and go back into time with Nickelodeon stuff. But yeah, with Jericho, man, he was super nice. And like the meet and greet, it wasn't like a long, experience talking to him because, of course, the line was packed and, like just very nice guy. Super nice.
I was surprised how quick that line, we got through that line. It was a very well organized, I feel, meet and greet. It was very organized. Nobody really ran into any issues or whatever. And we got through the line relatively quick. I think we were only in line for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, which for somebody like Jericho, that's actually really fucking good.
Especially with how far we were, which, guys, the vlog will be coming out hopefully sometime, next week. It's not really like a crazy long vlog, but it was a pretty cool experience. It was actually Danny's birthday. And how was your birthday this year with like Silver Screen Con?
It was good, man. As you guys know, if you guys don't know, in my personal life, I'm a huge horror fan. I'm wearing my Scream shirt. And you
Love the
can
shirt.
see all the stuff behind me. I mean, I'm just a huge fan of the horror movies. I have been since I was little. And this is my first con or convention that I've ever been to. I went to obviously the Wrestling Classic, but I have two loves. I have pro wrestling, horror movies. So it was my first time being there, and horror fans are some of the nicest people you'd ever meet. Like, you would think
I will say that, man, being there, like people were super genuine.
exactly. And it was your first time there as well, so it was almost like a first for us, even though I'm more into it than you were. But
I learned a
overall,
lot,
man,
I will say that.
I will say, man, and I wasn't gonna out this, but I probably should. I wanted to meet so many people there, but I was fucking nervous, bro. My
I
ball.
fucking knew it. I knew it because, guys, throughout that entire day, I was trying to push Danny to, meet somebody so bad because, like, I felt like, Danny, this is like Candyland to him. So, like, I really wanted him, to, like, have an experience on his birthday.
Yeah, but it's just like obviously like growing up like watching their movies and just like pretty much them being a part of my life in that way, kind of like how pro wrestling is to us. But it's just like like meeting them, like like they're almost larger than life. You know what I mean? And
I hear
I don't
ya.
know. I'm a very to myself kind of person. I'm riddled with anxiety in certain situations, and I don't do well with meeting new people. That I keep my circle extremely small. So, but I'm glad to say that actually the day after I ended up purchasing tickets to another horror con happening on September 23rd in Hartford, Connecticut, called CT Horror Fest. And my wife Vicky's going, our kids are going. So hopefully I'll be able to get out of my shell and I'll be able to, meet some people that I really want to meet. So I'm
Man, you
looking
gotta
forward
get
to
out
that.
of that turtle shell, man. You gotta,
I
especially in
got it,
this,
man.
business as content creators, man.
I got it, man. But let's carry on with the podcast, man. So that vlog's coming out very soon. You guys are gonna enjoy it, and very organized convention. But what do we got on the docket for tonight, man?
Well, real quick, my highlight of the week has got to be meeting Chris Jericho. Nothing, tops that.
Yeah, definitely.
But
Like I don't mean to cut you off. And I was, me and you were talking about it. Literally in less than a year, you met Edge, Cody Rhodes, Undertaker, and now Chris Jericho, bro. I mean,
absolutely wild. Ric Flair, too.
That does not
And
normally
your
happen,
favorite,
man.
Charlotte Flair.
Oh my fucking god!
I had to add that.
You mean Ric Flair? And I guess you can say Nia Jax. We already know my feelings on that. But it's insane, man. Like in less than a year, you met, four of the biggest names in the entire world of pro wrestling. Like, even if you never watched pro wrestling in your life, Cody Rhodes, Undertaker, Edge, and Chris Jericho. So
And Ric Flair, too. So I'd say
yeah,
like 5.
and Ric Flair, yes.
But yeah, man, I've been meeting a lot of people, the past few years, and I think, doing this whole We Are Wrestling thing, it's really sparked that love for, wrestling again. Even though, the IWC, they make me want to friggin', get strangled like Homer does the Bart. But hey, I still love this sport at the end of the day. And I, love doing this with you, love doing this with Ben. And man, just like, the memories that we've made in such a short time is just incredible.
I know, man. Like just traveling, going to wrestling shows, just hanging out. We've met so many different people. Obviously the Wrestling Classic 4, I believe, is going to be coming up within the next several months. I believe we're going to have a table at that. Details to come later this year. But it's insane the amount of stuff that we've accomplished, and I'm happy to say that we have very little issues in our fan base, I guess you can say, or our viewers. Like, we have some of the most less toxic people that watch our content, and that normally does not happen.
Here's one thing I will say about, the We Are Wrestling Maniacs that, watch our videos and they listen to the podcast and they even, see us at the shows and stuff. I feel like we have one of the most, diverse group of, wrestling fans that tune into this stuff. I really like how a lot of, our fans are very open-minded and, like they have their own form of an opinion. Because in the wrestling world, it's so easy to just, go down like that hole and like, you stick with one person, but like you don't understand the other side of it. And I like how our fans, they really understand from, both sides. I really like how, they're very open-minded because I know some of our loyal, maniacs, they've had an opinion and, something I said or something you said or something they saw changed their opinion. And those are the people that I love to be surrounded by because I can't stand like one side, like one-minded people.
Exactly. And one thing about us is we love when people have different opinions as us. Just because you watch our content and you hear what we say and what we talk about and our thoughts or whatever, we don't want to change your decision. If you feel a certain way about somebody, we want it to stay that way. We don't want to really be influences like that to that degree.
But here's what makes the We Are Wrestling podcast must watch. And I think a lot of people can definitely agree with what I'm going to say here. You, myself, and Ben, we all have different, wrestling opinions at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what makes, pro wrestling fun. And, like with us, like we all, have our different opinions. There's certain people we like, there's certain people we don't like. And that's the thing. Like, we can have our debates, we can have fun with it, and man, it's just entertainment at the end of the day.
Exactly, man. And I have a feeling we're gonna have one or two topics on this podcast tonight that we're gonna heavily disagree on. So
yeah, and I think it's the first one. I think it's the first one. So
well,
let's dive into some WWE topics.
Yeah, let's dive the fuck in, man.
Oh yeah, this one we're definitely going to be disagreeing on a lot. So here we go. This past Monday on Raw, we saw the return of Nia Jax to WWE. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful, they heard that she was heading back to the company and she was signed for over a month. As you know, the hiring freeze effectively ended this summer. What's your thoughts on her return? And before you give your thoughts too, just want to let the We Are Wrestling Maniacs know that are, listening or who aren't subscribed over to the channel. There is a brand new episode of Hot Takes that came out earlier this week where, I, really dived into the whole Nia Jax thing and explained why I thought it was a good move for her, to come back to WWE. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of her. Just wanted to put that out there.
I will say this. Okay, did WWE need somebody to come in to sort of be more of a threat to Rhea Ripley, who's the world champion, than just Raquel? Yes.
Did you watch my episode of Hot Takes?
I watched a little bit of it, and then you were praising Nia Jackson, and unfortunately, I had to fucking back the fuck out.
But that was one of the points I made in the video, was the whole like size thing.
I don't honestly think much has changed with Nia Jax, bro. I like just seeing what she did on Monday. You can tell nothing has changed. She's not that safe of a worker. How I would have booked this whole scenario was I would have had her interrupt the match. I would have had her do the bonsai drop or the fucking the Samoan drop on the outside like she did. And I would automatically have that, be sort of like a DQ or, a count out. That way Rhea would have still retained the title, whatever. And it sort of would have built a little bit more intrigue. But yeah, you have Nia Jax giving the Samoan drop on the outside on a very thin mat on, pretty much fucking like steel or fucking concrete, whatever it is on the
Yeah, it's
outside.
concrete usually underneath the mat.
And then she does that, she backs away, the referee doesn't see, and you just Raquel's, climbing back in the ring or whatever and finishing the match. The way they went about it is fucking atrocious.
Yeah, but AEW though, like all these other wrestling promotions, they always be doing that too. Like the referees like pretend like something didn't happen and it like looks like blatantly obvious. So I feel like that's not a WWE problem.
No, it's not. I just don't the way this whole thing was orchestrated,
yeah, the finish could have
is
been
fucking
better.
dog shit. And when she did the Samoan drop on or the bonsai drop off the ropes, landing on Rhea, and Stevie Richards actually pointed this out, and I watched a video, and he went frame by frame by frame.
Before you dive into that, I do want to say this because I am subscribed to Stevie Richards' YouTube channel. Guys, if you want to check out, like a wrestling legend, pretty much breaking down, like problems like in the ring and like, really like talking about things step by step, go to, Stevie Richards' YouTube channel. It's, phenomenal.
Yeah, so check
Great
that out.
stuff.
But so he pretty much did an entire video breaking it down step by step. How this was a bad idea, what went wrong in this whole spot or whatever. And it was the whole Samoa drop in the outside, then Raquel just gets in the ring like nothing happened, like she wasn't just fucking dropped on her fucking back in the outside of the ring. And then when Nia Jax did the bonsai drop from the middle rope onto Rhea Ripley, Nia Jax was how the move is usually orchestrated, and people can't fucking tell because they're fucking good at their jobs. When a wrestler did it or does it, you're supposed to hold on to the ropes. That way, all your weight does not land on the person you're giving the move to. Nia Jax just lets off the ropes. Her entire body weight just slams right on fucking Rhea Ripley. And very, very dangerous. And just the whole that's why I don't think Nia
but that
Jax
made her
has
look
gotten
strong, man, by doing it that way.
Yeah. But what would have happened if, God forbid, Rhea Ripley is one of these girls that has breast implants? It fucking exploded, and then she has to be off TV for a couple months. They would have had to take the title away from her. A lot of shit could have happened. Like, that's why I don't think Nia Jax should be back in WWE. She's not a safe worker. She does things to look powerful, yes, but she doesn't do moves the safest way possible, but also make it look good.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like somebody
she does have that track record, so I can't really argue with that. But for me, like, I have to give her the benefit of the doubt. This is her second run. I do want to give her that chance to, let's see like a couple matches from now if, her in-ring work has improved. Because one thing that you can't deny is she came back in way better shape now than she was before she left.
I'll give it a couple weeks, man, but I'm not giving it any more than that. And if
a couple
things
matches,
do not,
you got to give it a couple matches.
If things do not change, then I'm gonna be in the camp of she's got to get the fuck out. I said,
man, on Hot Takes, man. For me, I felt like this was one of my most wildest hot takes, because I know there's some people, which I'm very surprised, because over on the Instagram page, we did a poll about the whole, Nia Jax thing. Is it a good move or a bad move? And the crowd, like the fans, were very mixed about it, but there was a little bit more percentage that they're actually happy she was back, which I'm very surprised by that, because of a lot of the negative, feedback she's had throughout her career.
I commented on
I did see that.
WWE's Instagram, and I was like, "Get Nia Jax off TV. Nobody wants her here." And that shit fucking blew up. I think it has like 300 likes or something like that. Like, it's blowing the fuck up. I'm like, I'm
The
going
toxicity,
viral.
man.
I'm going viral for my fucking Nia Jax hate. But I mean, it's true. Like, if she were to add something to the show, I wouldn't mind that she's back. But I don't honestly think, like, WWE was fine with her gone. They'll be fine if she never comes back. And I kind of feel like WWE improved a little bit, especially the women's division, when she left. If you remember, she left because she didn't want to get the vaccine. She didn't leave because of budget cuts or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this was obviously back in like 2020, 21, something like that.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to get the vaccine, so
I
she
think it was
decided to
2021,
leave.
because that's when the whole vaccine thing was going on, like all
Yep.
over like the sports and stuff.
Was the women's division at the top tier level when she was there? No. Did it improve a little bit when she left? Yes. Because honestly, like, there's just nothing about her that I feel like is like, when I think of a superstar, I don't think of Nia Jax. She's the last fucking person I think of.
I don't know, man, because she is, she definitely stands out a lot more than other women, and I think that's why she's had a successful career.
Because she's big, that's it.
Hey, there's a lot of big men throughout, WWE,
She's the fucking Giant Gonzalez of the women's division.
Yeah, but like, there's a lot of other, big men through the years that stood out, and they've had successful careers because of their size. Like, that's like saying like King Kong Bundy like wasn't good, but he relied on his size, just like Nia Jax. She relies on her size, and in the women's division, not a lot of women are her size in the ring.
Yeah, like I said, I'll give it a couple weeks, see how she does. But if 2-3 weeks, if nothing has changed, if I don't see any kind of improvements, because obviously I know how Nia Jax worked before. She's like, people are legitimately like posting her old matches and like freeze framing, like when she almost broke Bianca Belair's neck and she broke Becky Lynch's nose, and like, she almost fucking broke Charlotte Flair's neck. I just don't. I don't see, especially with her return, I don't see how she's improved at all.
So here's one thing that I, talked about a lot in, hot takes. One of my points that I made, and I think the reason why they're putting her in this program with Rhea Ripley, is the simple fact that she's already an established star. Whether you love her or hate her, you can't deny that she's already an established star, because she's had, years of being on weekly television. A lot of these, girls, they just got called up to, from NXT to the main roster. A lot of these, girls just got re-signed by Triple H, and they haven't had that exposure of being on weekly TV, which I will say this. A lot of them should not be hanging out in catering. They should be on TV weekly, getting those reps in. I absolutely understand where a lot of other people are coming from with that. But with, Nia Jax, especially your women's world heavyweight championship, she's an established star, and that's what you need for, the world championship, because we all know the game plan, all right? And nobody can deny this. WrestleMania 40, it's probably going to be Rhea Ripley defending her championship against Becky Lynch. It's going to happen. And
I hope not.
The thing is, right now you need time to, go by. And a lot of people have been saying, oh, Rhea Ripley, her championship run has been lackluster. Did you say that?
Yes.
Exactly. A lot of people have been saying that, including myself. And one thing that's not helping is her going against up and coming people that haven't had years of being exposed on TV, like Raquel Rodriguez, which I'm not trying to take away anything from, their talent, because I think Raquel is a future world champion. I think she has a lot of potential, a lot of upside, but she's not ready yet for that world championship. And I feel like with Nia Jax, already being a former world champion, being on television for years, being exposed to the WWE universe, the casuals, she's known. And I think that, not Rhea, I think her, Nia Jax putting Rhea over is going to establish her as a champion more. Remind you, dominant champion, because Nia's got size. So if Rhea Ripley, she, puts the riptide on her, imagine that massive pop. And she's going to be looked at more as a legitimate threat, which is what she needs right now in her title run.
I gotta say, man, and my feelings towards Nia Jax have absolutely nothing to do with her ability or her, status of being known on television, being in front of the audience or whatever, because she is established. Everybody in the WWE universe knows who Nia Jax is. I will say about 78% of the WWE universe want her gone, and I'm in that minority as well. But my issues with her are the fact that I don't
That
think
she's not a safe worker.
She's not a safe worker, bro. And the whole thing about this is you got to protect your athletes. Why hire somebody that's just gonna end up doing a move wrong or not the safest way or whatever? What would have happened if we found out later that night that Rhea had a hard time breathing, or she cracked a couple ribs, or she had to get taken off of TV for whatever reason? I mean, that months of storytelling would have went down the drain. They would have had to take the title away. There a lot of shit would have fucking had to happen, and it would have just made the shows worse. I don't want her there if she's not gonna do moves safely. You can do moves safe, but still make him look very devastating. And that's my issue with it.
No, that's fair. But also, too, like, I think you have to consider as well that in this sport, in this business, accidents do happen. And I understand she doesn't have the best track record at all, which, I totally understand why, you're being, precautious about this, and why, you have, your guard up with this. And that was my biggest issue, through the years with her, was not being a safe worker. But I'm trying to go into this with, open arms, because I've just not been a fan of Rhea Ripley's title run, and we need somebody established to go against her, because I want her to have that dominant title run, because her, winning the Royal Rumble, leading to the championship, was perfect. Fantastic road to WrestleMania, and she had that big moment. But now it's been a little lackluster, and she just hasn't had really a threat go against her. And now, finally, we have somebody that's a threat because of her size.
Yeah.
But I totally understand, though, where, other people are coming from with it, because this is coming from somebody that literally walked off the watch along for the Royal Rumble. I walked out of the room when that happened, when she returned.
And Nia Jax is very easy to spot. There's always people in and out of the Performance Center. There's people going there for NXT. We heard rumblings that she was signed about a month ago, but I have not heard one rumbling or any rumors at all that Nia Jax was at the Performance Center. She was training. She was getting ready for an in-ring return. All we heard was WWE re-signed her.
Well, that's the thing, though.
Has she been able to train? Has she been able to get in there? Has she been able to?
You want to know where she's been training?
Work on things.
You want to know where she's been training? Where? And the reason why she is actually in pretty good shape is because Mojo Rawley. Well, that's the thing, though, with Mojo Rawley. He's, been out of WWE for a little while, and now, he's trying to do more things, for the community, and he actually opened up his own agency. So he's been signing a lot of, former WWE superstars and stuff, and giving them opportunities. And I believe it or not, him and Nia Jax, they're, best friends. They're pretty close. And they both have been, training in the ring. And that's
That
why
doesn't
she got
matter.
herself in pretty good
She
shape.
needs to be at the performance center. That's my issue. She needs to be at the performance center. Those are the people that build the future for what WWE is. Those are the people that are going to be like, "Mia, you need to work on this. You need to, do this move a little bit safer." There's
Yeah,
things
but do you know how many people train outside of the performance center?
not a lot.
There's a lot of people that do.
Randy
You'd
Orton.
be very
Randy Orton.
surprised.
A news article came out last week or 2 weeks ago that Randy Orton was spotted at the performance center training. So if Randy Orton is good enough to train there, why isn't Nia Jax? That's my issue. Nia Jax has shown that she's not a safe worker, and I have a feeling that it's going to continue.
And if it does continue, then obviously, my opinion's going to change on it, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens.
We'll give it a couple weeks. But if I'm right about this, I want you to come on here and say that I'm right. If you're right about this, I'll come on here and say that you're right. Deal?
All right, you got yourself a deal. So if she doesn't injure anybody, how about this? Let's make this a deal. If she doesn't injure anybody in the ring for 1 month, 30 days, we're recording this on September 14th. So October 14th, if she has a clean record, that's where, we make the deal.
Okay.
All righty. Look at that. You hear that,
guys
ladies and
heard it.
gentlemen? We got a deal. So moving on now to the next topic here. Matt Riddle got into an incident at the New York City airport. Police officers at JFK airport of, sexual harassment on Sunday. As previously reported, law enforcement sources stated that officers received a call about a disorderly person who was being disruptive. This person turned out to be Riddle. According to witnesses, Riddle seemed apologetic when he was speaking with the police, and no police report was filed. The port authorities said they were shocked about Riddle's claims on Instagram. From their view, they didn't do anything to deserve such an accusation and take the claim seriously. They are launching an internal investigation. And this past Monday on Raw, we didn't see Riddle due to the incident, but there's reports that he will be back on television this coming Monday. How do you feel about this incident? Because Riddle, he doesn't have the best track record when it comes to the law and, the policy.
He was off of the Rumble, I believe, because of elimination chamber, one of them, earlier this year at the beginning of the year, because he had to go to rehab. He got caught doing stuff that he wasn't supposed to. Riddle is one of those guys. He has all the talent in the fucking world to be a main event guy, but with a lot of his actions and the way that he does certain things, he drinks all the time, he smokes all the time, probably does other stuff. He's in a relationship with an adult film star. So obviously,
He
living
gets
that kind
himself
of
into a lot
lifestyle.
of, toxic relationships as well.
He does. And, I don't think he needs to be around, those kind of influences or whatever, because I do feel like he's a person that's so friendly, but he's very easily, he feels like you can manipulate him into doing whatever the fuck you want him to do. Like, how many videos have surfaced online of him like stopping at like a little dive bar or whatever after a WWE show and like drinking and hanging out with fucking like fans and stuff like that, and him just having a drink and like taking selfies like this, and like it's happened a lot. And I just feel like a lot of these influences are gonna hinder him in his growth within the company. I gotta say, I'll be surprised if he doesn't get fired within the next year, like maybe even sooner. Obviously, it did come out today. I don't know if you have it on the podcast, but it did come out today that starting tomorrow morning, we're gonna get a lot of reports of a lot of cuts within WWE.
I know. I'm not ready to cover all that.
We're not, you can't cover it because we don't know who it's gonna be. We don't know if it's gonna involve talent or.
I know.
if
I'm
it's
just
gonna
saying
involve...
when it comes out, man, it's gonna be chaotic.
So we're probably gonna have to do an extra on that over the weekend at some point. but I don't think he's gonna last much longer in the company, and it's sad, you know. Obviously, he has name value, so there's a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of places that he can work and get good money from it. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, Dana White and him have had issues. He got kicked out of UFC, and Dana White pretty much banned him from every single UFC event for the rest of his life, and like they have a lot of issues with each other. And now that the mergers happened, I mean, that's gonna have a lot of influence on it because you damn well know that if Dana White wants somebody gone, Ari Emanuel's gonna make sure that happens. I just,
Mhm.
we talked about it, man. We talked about Riddle being, we thought there was a possibility that he could have been the one to dethrone Roman Reigns at one point. When they had
I
those
never thought that.
the little series of matches or whatever. Me, you, and Ben. I remember we had a discussion. We talked about Riddle possibly being world champion at some point. I don't think that's ever gonna happen.
Nope.
I'll be shocked if he holds another title in WWE just because he's such a liability to the company.
And that's, where, I want to get into this because I'm sure I've, talked about Riddle multiple times. He is so fucking talented. He has all the tools to be a world champion, to be a main event star in both mixed martial arts and professional wrestling.
Mhm.
But he makes the most stupidest fucking decisions.
Yep. And
And
this
it
came out.
man, it pisses me off.
This came out 2 days before the merger, mind you. I forgot to mention that. This came out. I think it came out on Sunday, and the merger happened on Tuesday morning. So again, that makes the company look like absolute dog shit. It was when they were coming home from India.
And that's the thing about Riddle, like, he just doesn't have respect. And his lack of professionalism, that's my biggest issue with this guy because I know there's been incidents with, him and Goldberg. I know him and Seth Rollins have had issues, even though they were able to work together and, have a pretty solid storyline.
Yeah.
Riddle has all the tools in the bag to be a big star. And he was starting to pick up a lot of momentum with, Randy Orton, even though I wasn't the biggest fan of RK Bro. He was picking up a lot of momentum. He was on television every week. He was becoming a regular, just like, how Nia Jax, she's already an established star. Riddle is, an established star now because of, the amount of times he's been put on TV. His transition from NXT to the main roster has been fantastic. But the problem is he gets himself into so much trouble and he is a liability at the end of the day. And honestly, if I'm WWE, I'm sending him away. I'm going to say it. You're fired.
And like you have to,
Because he has a track record, man. Go back to UFC. Look at all the shit that happened with him and Dana White. All over marijuana.
Yep.
Throwing millions of dollars away. WWE, man, getting into, abusive stuff, getting accused of sexual harassment, and, going through a lot of shit with, drugs and alcohol. He is such a liability, and it sucks because he's so talented. I know the potential's there, but, I want him to stay out of trouble. I want him to be a professional because there's so many people, so many independent wrestlers, because of course I'm a huge advocate for indie wrestling. There's so many people that would fucking break their leg to be in a situation like his. And just like, NBA, athletes and NFL, stars, there's so many of them that friggin' take advantage of the opportunities that are given to them. They get millions of dollars, generational wealth, and they throw it all away because they want to fucking do something stupid.
And WWE has proven themselves time and time again. Like, you can have a big star in NXT and then they come up to the main roster and they get fucking pretty much shelved, until WWE management wants to. Look at Johnny Gargano, bro. That dude was NXT. How many fucking times did he main event fucking Takeover as NXT champion? And now the guy can't even get fucking TV time on Raw.
I will say this. I'd rather have Johnny Takeover than friggin' Becky Lynch and Dirty Dom on NXT.
Exactly. But But now you have this guy who pretty much WWE pushed him to the fucking moon. Like they gave him every single opportunity that that they could, and the guy just squanders it all. It's like ever since Randy got taken off TV and left, for health reasons or whatever, it's like he doesn't have. I feel like Randy and him being a tag team or whatever. Obviously, I'm pretty sure they traveled with each other. It was almost like Randy was able, because Randy
He
obviously
mentored him.
he's had his fair share of issues in the past. I feel like he was in a way watching out for Riddle, almost
He was
like
a mentor.
almost like a mentor, big brother kind of thing. Whatever, he kept him on the straight and narrow. Riddle was always with him, so he didn't have an opportunity to do the kind of things that Riddle wants to do. And I feel like ever since Randy got taken off TV, and it's not Randy's fault. Randy, Riddle's a grown man.
Injuries happen.
He should be able to take care of himself. But it's almost like he doesn't have that mentorship on the road anymore, and being on the road all the time, and not being away from home, and obviously, there's a lot of influences around that. I mean,
Well, that's the only time that he wasn't a liability, because even before he was paired up with Randy Orton, he was getting himself in a lot of situations. I remember
Yeah.
speaking out, allegations came out, and
we don't wanna
his name
say,
was being thrown around.
because this does involve sexual assault, we do want to say, obviously, if you've ever feel like you've been victimized by anybody, obviously speak up. You do deserve to be heard. Man, woman, doesn't matter what the fuck gender you are. But obviously, this is aiming towards being a total fabrication, because of the fact that he posted it on Instagram and then he quickly deleted it.
Yeah, and wasn't there reports
This,
that he was intoxicated, and that's why he was
yes,
acting out?
he was shit faced, bro. They were on the flight. They were on a fucking 19-hour flight coming home from India. It was they had the Superstar Spectacular event or whatever in India. One
I
thing
know
that
Odyssey
does
Jones, man, he finally got an opportunity to wrestle.
one thing that trips me the fuck out about this entire situation.
And Shanky.
Obviously, WWE has road agents, right? I would imagine being on a long flight like this, a lot of the times, a lot of the performers travel together. You know what I mean? It's 19 hours there and 19 hours back. And apparently WWE has a lot of road agents or whatever to keep an eye on the talent. If they need anything, they can get it for them. Well, where were these fucking guys when Riddle was getting absolutely shit-faced drunk? Like, obviously, people in WWE know this dude has an issue. Why wasn't anybody there to, defuse the situation? That's what I
Can't help
want to know.
somebody that can't help themselves, man. And Riddle just seems to have this, stormy cloud following him everywhere he goes. It's unfortunate. He's throwing away a lot of money and he's making poor choices. And I really hope that he can just get his shit together and become that main event star that we know he can be. Because at some point, man, WWE, they're going to cut their ties with him, and a lot of us are going to see it coming.
As
he's not
talented as Riddle is, I honestly don't think he's one of those guys that should be on the road all the time. I don't feel like he can handle it. He probably gets depressed being away from his girlfriend or wife and his kids or whatever, and just being home all the time. Because the travel absolutely sucks. Like what these guys and girls go through every week, it's insane. Obviously, it's sort of calmed down over the last several years. It's not like it used to be. But the travel is still insane. I just don't feel like he's one of those people that can really handle it very well. And obviously, when you're after a show, when you have a 3-hour drive, to the next city, and you're just in a hotel room at 3:00 in the morning, can't sleep, doing nothing but watching TV. Well, what are you gonna do? You're gonna find something to cure your boredom. And obviously, somebody like Riddle, that's going down to, maybe a lot of hotels have bars built in, maybe going to the bar, having a couple drinks, this and that. One drink turns into 2, turns into 3, turns into 4, turns into 5. Eventually, you end up developing a problem. Obviously, I do think he had a problem long before he came to WWE, but I feel like it's gotten worse since
Well, a
he's
lot of it, I
been in
feel
the
like, isn't even
WWE.
like substance wise. It's just his attitude. I think he feels like
Bro,
he's
it's
hot shit.
substance, man. It's substance. He was drunk at the airport during this situation. He just went to
Yeah,
rehab
but
in fucking January for
even
coke.
before all of this stuff was coming out, Danny, that's the problem with Riddle, man. He thinks he's hot shit. Why do you think he has a lot of backstage heat with a lot of people? He
Well,
thinks he's hot shit. Why do you think in the UFC he got friggin' banned besides the whole marijuana thing? He thought he
Well,
was hot shit.
Well, I'm talking about strictly this situation and like the situation in January or whatever. That did heavily involve substance abuse. You know, I don't think you have to have the right mindset to do this kind of line of work just because of everything that like people automatically assume, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a WWE superstar, get rich, I'm gonna be on TV. You know, they're on TV for what, maybe 20 minutes a week, if that's like there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on that us as the audience don't see. And a lot of people don't have the mentality to really deal with certain situations like that.
But here's
You
the
know?
last thing I do want to say about this. You know, if Riddle did get, sexually harassed, like nobody should, ever go through that. Like you said, man, like, if you're a guy, if you're a woman, speak up because that shit's not okay. And honestly, like, but that's the thing, like with Riddle, man, it's just his track record,
He
and
deleted
he deleted
the
it
fucking
immediately.
exactly. If something like this were to happen,
But
I'm
that's the
pretty
thing, like
sure
that upsets me. Like if it didn't happen, that shit's serious. Like you shouldn't be fucking just throwing that out there.
exactly if it didn't happen, why would he delete it? One, because I'm pretty sure if it did happen, something like this did happen, I'm pretty sure WWE would have been in support of him. You know what I mean? They took him off TV. He deleted the message on Instagram. Like, just there's a lot of things pointing towards this accusation being false. And obviously, you probably fucking got this guy fired from his job. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of you don't know if this dude had fucking a wife, young kids at home, or whatever. He has to provide for them. There's just a lot of things in this scenario that I feel like Riddle ruined a lot of people's lives in this situation. Because, like, especially with like the speaking out movement, the
Because
Me
remind you, if
Too,
he
and
wasn't intoxicated at the airport, none of this would have happened.
exactly, it all stems from substance abuse.
And I think that, that's the best way to leave it at. But up
Exactly, man.
next on the We Are Wrestling podcast, we have some more WWE news. It's a hot week here on the We Are Wrestling podcast 74. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, it's Hall of Famer Devon Dudley here. And when I'm not putting people through tables or testifying, I am listening to one of the greatest podcasts in the world. We Are Wrestling Podcast. Check it out. Testify.
Collecting has always had a special place in my heart, going all the way back to when I was a kid. I remember my parents taking me to Toys R Us and waking up on Christmas morning to a bunch of new action figures. I had bins filled with thousands of rare WWE, WCW, ECW, and TNA figures through the years until, unfortunately, I ended up selling my whole childhood without knowing the true value of my collection. 2 years after I made that horrible decision, the pandemic hit, and I realized there was a part of me that felt missing, and that was collecting. My whole life, I have loved collecting wrestling figures, wrestling memorabilia, classic video games, Nickelodeon stuff, sneakers, Funko Pops, and even Angry Birds. As time went by, I decided I wanted to get back into collecting, except this time, document it and rebuild my collection over on Best One Donnie. So, if you want to go back into time and relive my nostalgic memories, subscribe now. We're back, and our next topic we have for this week's episode of We Are Wrestling Podcast 74. This past Tuesday on NXT, we saw Becky Lynch defeat Tiffany for the NXT Women's World Championship, and now she is a Grand Slam champion. How do you feel about this move, giving Becky the championship?
I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. You know, I think I mentioned this to you and Ben, like how I feel about this whole situation. And it's like when Triple H was running NXT, Black and Gold back in the day, it was a lot of the NXT shows, bro. They fucking blew Raw and SmackDown out of the fucking water. Like there was no competition, especially like the takeovers. Like I looked forward more to the takeovers than I did to like Survivor Series or Royal Rumble or WrestleMania or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Just because of how well the shows were built. You very rarely, if ever, saw migration between main roster and NXT stars. And Triple H did a good job at building a lot of those guys up. I mean, Adam Cole, red fucking hot. Johnny Gargano, red hot. Tommaso Ciampa, red fucking hot. Damian Priest, all these guys. Keith Lee, he had a huge spot at the Survivor Series with Roman Reigns. He almost powerbombed him through the fucking floor.
He could have really been the next Mark Henry in WWE.
So that's how you build stars. Everybody talks about NXT, they're them being the future of the business, because they are, and I just don't think it's a good look having two of your NXT champions also being main roster talent. That pretty much shows that you have no faith in your NXT talent to be able to be as good or as equal as anybody on Raw or SmackDown. Dominic's the North American champion. He beat Wesley. He's done absolutely nothing with the fucking title. He's only had one title defense. And he's done nothing with the title. I have a feeling that Tiffany Stratton's going to end up beating Becky Lynch at the end of this month at NXT's No Mercy. I
feel like they did it only because they wanted her to be a Grand Slam champion. But why do it now when she's already one of the biggest stars?
Exactly. She's already
not when she was in NXT.
You're supposed to be building up Tiffany Stratton to be the next Becky Lynch.
But I will say this about this. I'm not a fan of Becky Lynch winning the NXT champion. I will say that. But Tiffany Stratton, even though she lost, she's still a lot more over now than she was because more people have their eyes on her because having Becky Lynch go from, the main roster to NXT, the ratings were phenomenal this past week. I believe they almost hit 900,000 people. And over on the YouTube page, I believe Tiffany Stratton versus Becky Lynch match is at over 1 million views. So she definitely came out as a bigger star in this situation.
And that's fine.
But it's just unfortunate that, Becky Lynch, why do this now?
And that's fine. But Tiffany Stratton just won the title a couple weeks ago. And now she already lost it.
She won it a few months ago.
Well, 2 months ago, whatever it is. I just don't think it's a good look. What's going to happen when Becky Lynch is gone? What's going to happen when Charlotte Flair is gone? What's going to happen when Bianca's gone? What's going to happen when Rollins is gone? What's going to happen when Finn Balor is gone? What's going to happen when Drew McIntyre is gone? You need to concentrate on building the future. That way you're not in a funk when these people do decide to retire or move on, or maybe they don't decide to re-sign or whatever. They want to do different ventures outside of WWE. But yet you're having all these people beat your NXT talent who is supposed to be the future of this business. You could have done this match. I'm not upset about the match taking place. I'm not. I'm upset that Becky Lynch won. You could have done
it should have been a non-title match, to be honest.
Not even that. It should have been a title match. Title matches always do really good in main events. I'm not upset that the match took place. I'm upset Becky won. You could have done this a way to where maybe somebody interferes and starts beating up Becky Lynch. Maybe somebody from Raw, somebody from SmackDown, or whatever starts a feud with them. Tiffany Stratton wins and retains the title. I just don't like the fact that main roster stars are going over to NXT, being NXT talent, carrying titles, especially the ones that aren't going to do anything.
Here's the thing.
It's not going to add any more
Here's the thing, though.
to the titles.
I don't mind main roster people making special appearances on NXT because I remember in Full Sail University, before we had, the popular black and gold brand, that's what they were doing. Like, you had, special appearances from WWE superstars. We got to see John Cena. We got to see Dolph Ziggler. We got to see Rob Van Dam. We got to see Chris Jericho. And I like that because it's a great way to, get some more ratings. But when you're putting a championship involved, that's where, my problem is. I feel like they shouldn't be going for a championship on, that brand that they're not a part of.
And it's pretty much pointless because how I think this is going to go, September 30th, NXT has a PLE, No Mercy. And I believe Tiffany Stratton, they're setting it up to Tiffany Stratton to have her beat Becky Lynch. So you had Becky Lynch beat this woman who was on a 2-month title reign. She's one of your top stars in NXT. She's hopefully going to be a big star on Raw or SmackDown at some point. You had her get beat by Becky Lynch just to have her beat Becky Lynch again in 2 weeks.
Well, here's the thing that I do want to point out here, because I get what you're saying, and honestly, I somewhat agree with what you're saying, but now I want to kind of give you like a view from like the other side. Here's, I think, why they're doing this. Because Becky Lynch obviously has, a lot of eyes on her. She has a very strong fan base. And, her going on NXT, we saw it with the ratings. They freaking drew a great number on their show that they haven't done in years. And, with this, I think WWE, man, they're creative. And, the higher ups in WWE, they must be very, very high on Tiffany Stratton
and again,
put her in a program with one of, the best.
And again, I'm not upset that the match took place. I'm upset that Becky Lynch won. You're telling me if Tiffany Stratton everybody that's in the position involved with creative, whatever, you couldn't have done something else.
But with a solid storyline though, Tiffany Stratton is going to continue to have more eyes on her so that, when she comes up to the main roster, she's going to be a big deal. And I think that's why they're doing this.
I'm not an avid NXT watcher. I don't watch any clips. I don't watch any of that. I follow Fightful. I follow like a lot of the journalists.
I recommend watching at least the highlights for NXT, man, because they're actually doing really good shows.
I can't do it, man. I can't do it. The shows are just so fucking bad. I can't do it.
You'd be surprised.
I watch certain segments. If I see somebody that I like, I'll check it out. Very, very seldom do I do that. At least I'm being honest here. But how I would have done it was, if my memory serves me correctly, wasn't Roxanne Perez the champion and then she had to get the title taken away or she lost the title somehow?
Yep.
What if they had Tiffany Stratton versus Becky Lynch? You had Roxanne Perez interfere and either take out Becky Lynch or take out Tiffany Stratton. Doesn't matter. Still, title wouldn't have changed hands. And you could have done like a triple threat match at No Mercy. It still would have drew a good rating, but obviously you could have had Becky Lynch not win the fucking NXT title.
Well, I think they were trying to kill two birds with one stone. I think they're trying to kill two birds with one stone. They're very high on Tiffany Stratton, so let's put her in a program with one of the best, Becky Lynch. And Becky Lynch, they want her to be a Grand Slam champion, which to me, is pointless.
You won the title just to lose it in 2 weeks. How does that make Becky Lynch look good? She won the title in 2 weeks.
They just want her to be a Grand Slam champion. I think that's why
I'm so sick. I'm so sick of these fucking WWE records and these Grand Slam champion stuff. Like, if you want to be a Grand Slam champion, cool. Make it make fucking sense. You had Becky Lynch, who is arguably one of the best female wrestlers WWE has ever had. You had her beat this up-and-coming talent on NXT. But now they're going to set it up for Tiffany Stratton to beat her in 2 weeks after winning the fucking title. Make it make sense.
Like I said, man, I was just trying to give you the other side. I was trying to give you the other side, point of view.
I agree with what you're
saying.
I'm not upset the match happened. I'm upset Becky Lynch won.
So now I want to give my thoughts on this because you went in.
I'm being honest, bro.
I respect your honesty. So, my thoughts about this, I've been saying this for a very long time. Yes, I'm currently enjoying the NXT product, what they're doing. I think that they have a lot of great talent over there. But my biggest problem is WWE, even with the black and gold brand, because let's call it like it is.
Yeah.
When NXT, was at its highest point, they were already established stars elsewhere before, coming, to the main roster. You had, Bobby Roode, you had Eric Young, Samoa Joe, former Impact Wrestling guys. You had Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Roderick Strong, former Ring of Honor stars. Then you had Keith Lee, who was a standout in the independents. And, other people. Karrion Kross, he did a lot of stuff, outside, like with Lucha Underground and stuff.
Tommaso Ciampa, he made
but a lot of them
segments
came
on-
off from the indies, and don't get me wrong, they were putting on great shows. But when you consider, NXT a developmental brand, that's still taking away from creating the stars of tomorrow. And if you go back into history, and I said this a while back, so this is why I need to refresh everybody's mind here, including myself. That's why, back in the day, WWE were able to make larger than life characters because they created their own stars. And that's when WWE strives, is when they create them stars, when they find, a nobody, and then they're able to mold them into a larger than life character. Like The Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H. Those guys weren't big names outside of, WWE. They, made them larger than life. And that's the thing about Black and Gold NXT. Great shows. Takeovers, fantastic. But when you consider it a developmental brand, that's not creating the stars of tomorrow. Even though, yes, they did have some of them, like, Velveteen Dream at the time. He had a lot of potential. He was, a WWE guy that they created. But that's the thing, though. They weren't establishing their own stars at the time. And that's why when NXT 2.0 happened, I was one of them that was an advocate for it. I actually liked it because they went back to the drawing board, and that's where, NXT strives. When, they create their own stars. And that's like my biggest problem, with, having Becky as the NXT champion, having, Dirty Dom as the North American champion. It's taking away from the developmental. Now, by all means, you can have people from the main roster, go on NXT and have, matches and programs with people, but not for the fucking championships. Save that for the developmental talent. And like Dirty Dom, he, has only been in the business since, 2020. So I understand, like, him going to NXT. Okay, that's cool.
I think,
why is he holding the championship?
I think it was 2021, because I don't think it was until 2021 that they actually started going. He didn't start showing up until I think the Thunderdome era.
Yeah,
that was
2020.
like late. That was late 2020 or something like that.
Yeah, that was SummerSlam 2020. He went against Seth Rollins. But that's my problem. Like, okay, I don't care if they go for I don't care if they have matches with other people. They have rivalries with other people. That's a great way to, establish new stars. Yep. But when you're having them, hold the championships, going on Raw, SmackDown, flexing them, that's kind of where I'm just like, I don't know. I don't like when AEW, they do that with Ring of Honor. They have like Samoa Joe walking around with the Ring of Honor title. Like, who gives a shit?
Exactly. And like I said, I'm not upset the match happened. It happened, whatever. I'm upset that the title was involved, and I'm upset that Becky Lynch, who's arguably one of the best female talents WWE has ever seen, because they built her like that. She won the title, and just to drop it at the end of this month. Like, it doesn't make her look good. It doesn't make Tiffany Stratton look good. And I feel like it defeats the whole purpose of NXT being NXT, because you're supposed to be building the stars of tomorrow and not relying on talent that we see every Monday and Friday.
And you know what's been affecting Becky Lynch?
This Trish Stratus fucking storyline that was fucking dog shit for months.
Here's what's been affecting her and a lot of these other women that are stuck in catering and lack of creative. We need to get a mid-card women's championship ASAP, because right now, Becky Lynch, that would be the best thing for her right now because they're clearly, they have their plan. They want it to be Becky versus Rhea at 40 because that's going to draw money. Two of, the most popular women right now in WWE going at it on the biggest stage.
I have a
of them
question
all.
for you real quick. Who, if you had to pick right now, like at the time of recording this, September 14th, 2023, if you had to pick a winner for that match, who do you think should go over in that match?
I'm going to be completely honest, Becky Lynch, because she needs it.
Yeah,
Rhea Ripley doesn't need the championship to be over.
No, she doesn't. But I feel like every time, for the most part, Becky's had the title, it's just been another title reign. Like, she hasn't really done anything that memorable with it. And I feel like that's with a lot of WWE talent. Like, it's almost like they push them. Once they get the title, they fucking hold the brakes.
But that's what I'm saying. Right now, instead of her, being on NXT, focusing on that championship, if they had a mid-card title, that would be the perfect situation for her right now, and she could be going against other established, mid-card talent, like a Raquel Rodriguez versus Becky Lynch feud. That right there has a lot of potential. And, putting somebody that's like not really getting opportunities like Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell that are sitting in catering, you put them in an opportunity or a program
Aiden Carter,
with
Katana
Becky.
Chance, Isla Dawn, and Alba Fire.
Okay, but all of these people, you put them in a program with somebody that's established like Becky Lynch, that is how they're going to get over. That's how you create new stars. That's why they need to have a mid-card title. AEW, they have the TBS champion, and Jade Cargill, what became a very established star out of it. Chris Statlander, she's, having a great run right now. And sometimes I'm looking forward to the TBS title more than the women's world title over there. WWE needs to do something.
They need to do something, man, because whatever they're doing right now is not working.
Absolutely agree.
Becky Lynch should not be winning an NXT title just to fucking drop it the same month she wins it.
Or just to be a Grand Slam champion, like who gives a shit. But moving on now to the next topic we have here. Speaking of championships, WWE has plans to finally split up the Undisputed Tag Team Championships very soon. What's your thoughts on the title split up?
I'll believe it when I see it. We've been hearing this since the beginning of the year. Right after Sami Zayn and Kevin won it, we heard that they were going to be doing.
That's when they should have done it.
When Judgment Day won the titles, we heard that. Oh, at the next night on Raw, they were gonna fucking get a new title design for the new tag team titles.
They've been teasing that new title design for a while.
So I don't want to get my hopes up, and I'm not gonna at this rate. I'm not gonna believe it until I actually physically see it, because we've been hearing it for close to a year and it hasn't happened yet.
They need to split these championships up. These are the most ugliest championships right now in all of pro wrestling. I am just sick of these Spartan logo titles with the red and the blue strap. And I think that, having one set of tag team championships is affecting other, tag teams in, both brands, Raw and SmackDown.
What I would do is I would introduce the same title, a similar title design as the women tag titles, but make it distinctly for the men. So it gives it that separation.
Like, what they need to do, man, is like Ruthless Aggression. Like, you had the World Tag Team Championships and the WWE Tag Team Championships.
Bro, those are beautiful titles.
And they were both completely different titles, and they stood out.
I miss the tag titles from like 2001 to fucking, when was it? Like 2004, 2005. I miss those title designs.
Well, the World Tag Team Championship design, the one that I'm talking about, like the oval, that was 2003.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about like the old school, like
the square one.
Titles,
Yeah,
I like those tag titles, man.
But that's the thing. Like, I feel like it's really taking away from a lot of these other tag teams having only one set of championships. Like, you have the Judgment Day right now as, the champions. And like, okay, like what about SmackDown brand? Like we have, Carl Anderson and, Luke Gallows. We have, a lot of good tag teams over on that brand. Raw, we have great tag teams. And for once, we have a pretty solid division. So, why do we have one set of championships? It reminds me of, Ruthless Aggression when you had, Divas on Raw and SmackDown, but you only had the women's championship on Raw. So then you had, Tori Wilson, Dawn Marie. What were they competing for?
And then
that's my issue.
Isn't that sort of when they introduced the Divas title back in
that was
2008?
2008.
I thought it was 2007 because it was around the time Beth Phoenix first came in.
2008. That's when they brought the butterfly title.
So,
but that's the thing though. I'm just saying, when it comes to the tag team championships, at first, I will admit, I was one of them fans that said, we need to, just have one championship. That's all we need. But now that Triple H has taken over creative and we have more solid tag teams, we need to have, 2 sets of championships because it's a great way to, establish, tag teams. Even Pretty Deadly, they're also a pretty good tag team.
And I want to know, where in the
title
world
can do something for them.
Where in the world does it make sense that we have a WWE World Champion and a World Heavyweight Champion, a Women's World Champion and a Women's WWE Champion, separate on their own respective shows, but yet of all the titles, you have the fucking tag titles that the tag champions are able to cross brand and go to each show. What fucking planet does that make sense?
Exactly. That's, my thoughts on that. I really hope that they do, make this happen. I've been a huge advocate for this to happen going all the way back to the beginning of this year. It's been long overdue. I think when Sammy and Kevin won the titles, that would have been the perfect way to,
that would have been a perfect night. That would have been a perfect way, man. You could have started off the Raw after Mania with the fucking brand new tag titles. That would have been fucking lit. But instead Vince McMahon decided to ruin it. Like I said, man, if it happens, I'll be extremely happy. But with the fact that we've been doing nothing but hearing about it for fucking the longest time, until it happens, I'm not gonna believe it. Because I don't want to get
Pete Dunne.
I don't want to get my hopes up. We've been hearing that he was gonna come. I think it was what was it, Clash of the Castle? Everybody was like, "Oh, Triple H is gonna have Pete Dunne come out as Pete Dunne and not Butch anymore." We saw how well that turned out.
Yeah, I don't understand it. But moving on now to our next WWE topic. WWE is trying to lock LA Knight into a long-term deal. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, there's reports that the two sides have been in talks, but the two sides are far apart on money. The report stated, no deal has been agreed to and doesn't appear imminent, but they will keep negotiating. One WWE higher-up stated that there's no truth to Knight's big push being tied into the new deal and cited various wrestlers who have deals expiring next year are still getting pushes. Knight's current WWE deal has over a year and a half left on it. Should WWE lock LA Knight in?
Yes, and we sort of, I think we discussed it on one of the podcasts like 2 weeks ago. We talked about it because a report came out from, I don't know if it was like an actual journalist or if it was on Twitter. You said you saw somewhere about LA Knight re-signing or signing a brand new contract for more money with WWE or whatever, locking him down for like 5 years or whatever it is. Turns out, whatever we said on that podcast, our thoughts still remain the same, but that the idea of him signing for 5 years was completely false.
But that's the thing, though, that's new about this report is we know his current WWE deal, he has over a year and a half left on it. And that's a big, detail.
That's the big detail. And, a lot can happen in that amount of time. A year and a half is a long time. It doesn't seem like it, but it is. So a lot can happen. They could re-sign him. He could, they could offer him a certain amount. He could not accept it. I mean, there's a lot that can happen. I guess it's good for him because how he's booked now, it could easily change by the time his contract ends up expiring. So, I mean, if they're giving him a big push now, and then they sort of hold the brakes, next year or something, if they want to set their eyes on somebody else and, not book him, and maybe his popularity dwindles or whatever, because people are sick of the same old thing that he does every week, a lot can happen. He could resign or he could not. A year and a half, man. We're gonna have to wait and see how that whole thing is gonna play out.
All I know is LA Knight right now is in a very good situation, just like MJF. 2024, the bidding war. They're both in very good situations. And I think MJF is really starting to, start that trend where, your value more than, the company does. And they're setting themselves up for more money and more success and more
Yeah.
fame. And I think that, LA Knight in WWE, it's working right now. And I think that they're going to ink that new deal. It's only a matter of time. LA Knight, the whole yeah thing is literally getting chanted everywhere, all over the globe. And, he's so over. His merchandise is moving well, very over with the crowd. And especially, Vince McMahon still having final calls on stuff. LA Knight is still, being put over on, regular television right now, which is a great sign. And I think that, it's only a matter of time before the deal goes through. They'll figure out the money situation. I'm sure WWE, they, just started pushing him like for real. And I think they want to see it consistently before they commit to LA Knight's money, which, I could definitely see it from both sides because, of course, if you are going to pay a big star, you want to make sure you're getting, your full money's worth so that that contract doesn't feel like the wrestler is a bust. Because sometimes in the basketball world, because in case you guys don't know, I, love watching, basketball outside of wrestling. And there's times where, a player, they'll have a great season and usually it's their contract year. So then when they become an unrestricted free agent, they will, try to seek the most money they possibly can. And, sometimes some teams out there, like smaller markets, they will pay them more money. And then, next thing you know, they overpay them and they're not worth their contract. And then it's a whole hassle to trade them. And I think that's like the whole situation right now. WWE wants to see the consistency. And I think LA Knight, he's so talented that, he's going to continue to deliver. And next thing you know, he's going to be paid well. Plus, he is up there in age as well. So WWE is also going to consider that. But the way LA Knight works in the ring, he's going to be able to, wrestle for probably 10, 15 years because he's not one of those workers that, is doing Darby Allin stunts out there. He's in there telling a story. He's an old school mind in the business. And that's hard to find in 2023.
It is. And, like I said, a lot can happen from this time, to that time. They could push him to the moon, or they could, see how limited he is in certain aspects or whatever, and maybe not want to invest, a shit ton of money. Because we have to remember, Ari Emanuel and Endeavor are now own 51% of the company. Vince
More
McMahon
than
only owns
Vince.
41%. You know what I mean? So it's not 100% Vince's call anymore. And if Endeavor or Ari Emanuel don't really find sense or have it make sense as to why they should pay him the kind of money that he wants, which I imagine is in 5-6 mil figures, somewhere around there, if not a little bit more than that. If they don't find that they're going to be able to return on their investment, in a year and a half from now, then it's not going to happen. You know what I
And
mean?
that's one thing I think, man, like they're going to see, LA Knight on TV doing his thing. And it's going to be a no-brainer for them that, especially, with this new vision with, TKO,
Yeah.
investment, they're going to invest in LA Knight.
It's a for sure thing right now.
But things do
But
change in the wrestling landscape. I get that.
Could things change?
But
a
I
year and
think
a half
LA
from now?
Knight, man, is so talented that he can make shit great. Like the whole friggin' like we saw it with the, male maximum models. Like it was a horrible gimmick, but his character, the Max Dupree thing, he made it work.
It
He's the
was
type of
fucking
person you
trash.
can give him chicken shit and he'll make chicken salad.
Yeah.
And
I
there's
mean,
there's not that many talent that could do that.
I definitely think that they should pay LA Knight every cent that he's worth. But again, it's not 100% Vince's call anymore. So we're gonna have to see how Endeavor feels about LA Knight going forward, because a lot can happen, man. There's a lot of moving parts in WWE now. The merger happened. It's not just like a McMahon ran show anymore. So, we're gonna see how it plays out, man. I'm very nervous about the next couple of months, because obviously we're not going to see changes right away. I feel like it's going to happen over the course of the next several months. Who knows what's going to fucking happen? For all we know, they could fucking have an octagon. All the matches take place in a fucking octagon. You don't fucking know.
What would you rather WWE do? Wrestle in an octagon or, have like wrestling matches where they're like singing Disney music?
Probably an octagon, because I feel like the ruthlessness of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I feel like there's
I
a lot
agree
you
with
can
you on
do with
that.
it, like it's like a fight pit or whatever. But I feel like fight pits are cool, but I feel like if every match took place in one, it would get very tiring very fast.
I do agree with that. But moving on now to our last WWE topic of the, podcast here. There's rumors going around that Elias is currently a free agent and that his WWE contract, came to an end. How do you feel about, Elias, not being a part of WWE anymore if the rumors are true? And where do you see him going?
I want to know if Ezekiel's still in the fucking hospital bed. That's what I want to know. So if anybody can relay that information to me, I want to send flowers and maybe a get well card. Um,
Poor Zeke. Ben loved him.
I fucking hated him. I thought it was just too generic. As much as I liked Ezekiel, Elias, I like the whole backwoods. Him showing up with his guitar and just the vignettes
Dude, the
and the
Drifter,
back
that
the
was the
back
best shit.
the backstage promos or the backstage segments with him just in the back leaning up against the wall, just playing his guitar or whatever. Like the segments with him and Braun Strowman were fucking fabulous. I feel like WWE dropped the ball on him because he was in fabulous shape. I feel like they could have implemented him in something. You know what I mean? Is he the most versatile person? No. So versatility, is definitely not his strong suit. But with the way WWE has treated Elias since he came back, it doesn't surprise me that they released him. And with the fact that Triple H is the one that actually brought him back in the first place, I feel like it was Vince McMahon who made the call to release him because he wasn't being on TV. And that terrifies the fuck out of me, man. Because look at everybody that they have off of TV. They have Johnny Gargano off of TV, Candice LeRae. They
Well, I thought
have
Elias's
Dexter
contract
Lumis.
expired. That's what I thought happened. And he just wasn't offered a new deal.
Well, either way, I wasn't offered a new deal. Why would Triple H bring him back and just have his contract expire and not give him a new one? I feel like it was, at the end of the day, I feel like it was a Vince McMahon call, because that just sounds like something Vince McMahon would do.
So here's what I'm going to say about this. I am a huge Elias fan. I walk with Elias, the Drifter. I was a big fan, of his run in NXT, which, a lot of that gets, foreshadowed because, of course, Black and Gold NXT was, about the already established, stars that came from Impact, Ring of Honor. So, like, guys like Elias didn't really get, recognized much, but he was able to transition from NXT to the main roster well. And, it was very smart what they did by having him, come out every week on his stool with his guitar And, he would do his, catchphrases, and then like he would make a song dissing, the city that they're in, similar to what The Rock was doing during Ruthless Aggression with the whole Hollywood thing. And it was working. Elias was so over with the crowd.
They
and
had
I
him in
never
a segment at
understood why.
WrestleMania with John Cena.
Here's the thing, though. I never understood why we never got an Intercontinental title run with him or a mid-card title, because I think that Elias could have been one of the biggest, mid-card talent that WWE had.
Did he ever win a title in WWE?
No.
Such
Never
a
did.
shame, bro. I mean, they had him in a segment at WrestleMania with John Cena, bro. And that was a monumental moment because that was the first time John Cena came back with the Thuganomics gimmick. I think it was the same WrestleMania that Seth beat Brock and the women main evented.
I think
It
so.
was the last year before they went to 2 nights
But
because the
that's the thing,
following
though.
year was
Elias,
the pandemic.
that's the thing, though. Elias was so over, and that's why I never understood why WWE never really like pushed him to that next level. There was times where they would push him, but then they would always, have him, put the other guy over, and then it didn't really add anything to him. And then, they did the whole Zeke thing, which very generic, but he still made it work. He tried to.
He looked like one of the wrestlers before, like you go into WWE 2K23 or whatever, and you go to create a wrestler, and before you actually make your character how you want, he's just sitting there
That's
with
how
his
it
fucking
comes.
trunks, bro. That's what Ezekiel reminded me of.
But what
and
I'm trying
very
to say
generic.
is he made it work to the best of his ability. Like, I think that Elias, the person, playing Elias, has a lot of talent. And honestly, he's somebody that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes on because I loved his act in WWE. There's just something about like the whole guitar thing that I really enjoy a lot. But like with Elias, like he had the old school vignettes and like just loved what he did. It was just different. It was amazing. And he was a solid worker in the ring and
I
told the
said this.
story.
I said this on our Facebook group chat that we have. I was like, I could see Elias, or well, not Elias. I don't know his real name. But I could see him joining Bullet Club Gold. Like, can you imagine him and Juice Robinson as sort of like a tag team or whatever? Him and Juice Robinson win the tag titles, and then um the Ass Boys and Switchblade Jay White win the trios titles. Make Bullet Club unfucking beatable, bro.
It would be kind of cool to see him in AEW just because I know how creative he is. But I want to see him go to more of a smaller company because I feel like the type of talent he is, he can bring more, people over to, where he's, working because of the talent that he is. So for me, honestly, I know this is biased because I've been praising them a lot lately. I would not mind seeing Elias in Impact.
If he goes to Impact, we need to try and get him booked for Blitzkrieg. I'd love to meet him.
I'd love to meet Elias, man. He's one of my favorite characters in, the PG era of WWE. And honestly, one of the first, PG era action figures I actually bought because of how much, I love the character.
Yep. So, I mean, maybe he wants to take a break from pro wrestling. Maybe he won't, because obviously, he's into music as well. So maybe he wants to do that. Maybe he wants to get into movies. Maybe he wants, I feel like he's established. He has a name, people know him. So I feel like even if he wanted to take a break from pro wrestling and not go back to it right away, I feel like a lot of doors, because of his association with WWE, I feel like a lot of doors have opened up for him in other avenues, whether it's movies, TV, music, whatever it is. Whatever he decides to do, bro, I feel like he can make it happen.
And that's the thing. I hope, he keeps the guitar. I hope that, he keeps that gimmick because I think that in another wrestling promotion, he could be a top guy with that character. And honestly, that's why I want to see him, go to like an NWA or go to like an Impact Wrestling because I feel like he could be a needle mover over there and actually make the product watchable with the talent that he has. But we're gonna have to wait and see what happens.
Anything is possible.
This is, a rumor, so like this isn't 100% confirmed. So take it obviously with like a pinch of salt.
Yeah. But if his contract did expire, he didn't end up getting to re-sign one. They didn't offer him one. Whatever the case is. Honestly, the dude's been off TV for months, so it wouldn't surprise me one bit. And I hate to say it, bro, but Johnny Gargano, and I hate bringing this up, but it's true. Johnny Gargano, it's already been stated publicly. Johnny Gargano has been raring to go since April, since a little bit after WrestleMania. He hasn't been on TV yet. Who's to say the same thing's not going to happen to him? I mean, sometimes you just got to trim the dead weight, and if you're not being used, they're going to let you go. And I hate saying that because I honestly feel like they could build WWE around Johnny Gargano. He's that fucking good in the ring.
He just needs to be on TV consistently every week. That's literally all they need to do.
Yep.
It's wild.
They could have had Johnny Gargano and Elias, both fucking solid mid-carders, but for whatever reason, they never decided to fucking push him because WWE has this habit. They only like to push a select few people. They like to push
but that's every wrestling promotion too. AEW be doing it too, and it pisses us off. But I know WWE, they're the biggest, in, this pro wrestling, business. So obviously,
they also have more television time than Impact and AEW and New Japan, all these stuff.
I don't know, man. AEW is getting up there low key. But up next, speaking of AEW, up next, we have our AEW news and, of course, comment of the week. So we'll be right back with more We Are Wrestling Podcast 74.
Did you guys hear that? One comment of the week.
What's crackin' everybody? WWE Hall of Famer, the Godfather here, and you're listening to, that's right, you are listening to We Are Wrestling Podcast. Check them out, man. Stay on that smoke train.
Are you looking for wrestling content? Well, We Are Wrestling provides everything pro wrestling. The best one, Donnie, Danny Huckins, and the Lone Ranger Ben are wrestling marks like you who love this sport. We Are Wrestling has it all when it comes to wrestling content. We have different podcasts, vlogs, reactions, full wrestling matches, live pay-per-view watch-alongs, interviews, predictions, and so much more. Only on We Are Wrestling. What are you waiting for? Subscribe and become a We Are Wrestling Maniac now. We're back. And every week on the We Are Wrestling Podcast, we do this thing called Comment of the Week. And if you want to get your comment featured on a future episode of the We Are Wrestling Podcast, all you have to do is go to the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel and comment on any video. And this week, we have only one comment of the week. I had to pick out of 100 of them. So, our comment of the week this week is from one of our loyal We Are Wrestling Maniacs, Hitman6945. He commented this. And this was on the latest episode of Hot Takes on Nia Jax. He said, first of all, Vince McMahon was the one who signed Nia Jax back to WWE last month. Second, this feud between Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez, and Nia Jax is perfect because Rhea really doesn't have an opponent besides Raquel who is stronger than her. I want to see if Rhea can hit the Riptide on Nia Jax.
As far as I know, she's hit the Riptide on Nia Jax before, hasn't she? I remember somebody did it to fucking Nia Jax. I remember she picked up some big fucking woman and fucking gave her the Riptide.
Hey, what I gotta say, man, is that type of stuff sells in sports entertainment, and that's why, for me, I'm interested in it. I know Danny, he's the opposite. We did cover that in the beginning of, the podcast.
Like I said, I'm going to give it a couple weeks, man, but, I just don't want to see people continuously get hurt, and Nia Jax has a track record of that happening. So, we're going to have to wait and see, man. Me and Donnie are both giving it a month, and, if I'm right, you already know if you watched the beginning of the podcast.
We already made that agreement, man. But congratulations, the Hitman 6945 on the comment of the week.
And everybody that's worried about their comment not being shown, man, all you gotta do is just comment every week. It can be on any single content, any kind of video, any podcast, whatever is on the fucking channel, man. And if you come up with a clever one, you will be picked.
So, if you guys want your comment featured on a future episode of the podcast, all you have to do is just comment on any video. But now, diving into some AEW news, because there's been a lot of things going on in that company, just like WWE. And the first thing, which this was a report, about a year ago, we knew things were going on with this, but we saw them just come back recently and we thought everything was under the rug. But apparently, things are still not good with Santana and Ortiz. Conan previously stated on his Keeping It 100 podcast that they are not on good terms. They did team together when Santana returned from injury in the Stadium Stampede match at All In. Ortiz responded to a video put out by Santana where he was talking about his comeback, and he can't depend on anyone who doesn't have the same passion as him. He said that he had chosen to take a path on the road alone and showed footage of him and Ortiz. Ortiz replied to the tweet, "What a way to find out years of having your back meant nothing. Good luck without your crutch. Just remember, it helped you walk for the last 14 plus years. Hope your legs are good. Thank you for being honest for once. But you couldn't say it to my face. You know you still can, right?" What's your thoughts on this, and do you think they're better off being single wrestlers?
I feel
Proud and powerful.
I feel like it's nothing but fucking drama, man. Like, I feel like it's something that's very minimal that can be fixed, but they're choosing the route of hatred towards each other that they don't want to fix whatever situation is happening. I don't really involve too much on that. Like, it's not. This hasn't been really like a front news, like, front of the paper kind of situation, whatever. It's not like one of the like CM Punk.
Well, you
It's
see,
not,
that's
it
like
hasn't been.
why, like on the We Are Wrestling podcast, sometimes I like to, bring attention to some of the topics and some of, the things going on that aren't being talked about much because everybody covers wrestling news,
Yeah.
but we have to change it up sometimes.
Do I think they should work out their issues? Yes. Enough people in AEW don't like each other. We don't need two more of their talents and dislike each other. I just there's so much wrong in this whole situation, man. Like, there's so much negative energy. There's so much uh feuding legitimately, and people not wanting to work with certain people or whatever. And it's just I feel like you're hindering the audience in a way, because, like, who's to say that
It's
people
hurting
don't
us
want
the
to see
most.
who's to say that people don't want to see Proud and Powerful as tag team champions? Who's to say they don't
I'm
want to
one
see
of them.
They don't want to see Santana and Ortiz maybe in a match at some point? That can't happen because they don't like each other. And I just feel like at the end of the day, like, you need to set your personal opinions aside and sometimes do business. And I just feel like, especially in AEW, bro, too many people are fucking sensitive, man. Like, they
It's the
hate
lack of
each other.
structure. That's the problem over there because Tony Khan can't be a boss and he just lets, his wrestlers walk all over them. A lot of them have, a lot more creative control than, over in WWE. Sometimes it's a good thing, but the more time goes by, the more like we're realizing that maybe it's not a good thing that, wrestlers have creative control. And there's a reason why WWE is at the top because there's structure involved.
There definitely needs to be structure in AEW, because whatever the fuck they're doing is not working.
You
So
got that right, man. They need more than Bob the Builder to fix it.
this whole Santana and Ortiz thing, man, like, I personally don't give a fuck about it. But I do feel like, for the sake of the fans, for the sake of the company, even if they don't legitimately like each other, they should still be professional enough to want to do business with each other if that's what the fans and Tony
They
Khan
had
wants them to
Santana.
do.
They had Santana do a friggin' video promo on Rampage. They better fucking at least have a finish. They better have at least one freaking match to pretty much like just end the feud. They need to do something. Like sometimes you have to work with people you don't want to work with. That's a part of the business. Like I work a regular job outside of this, and I have to work with people I don't like. But sometimes you just have to go and do it.
Exactly.
Like, I have to do this freaking podcast with you.
Fucking asshole. Yeah, me, Don, and Ben, a little behind the scenes. We secretly cannot fucking stand each other.
Yeah, we
And
hate each other.
Every time I want to see this motherfucker, I want to just hit him in the kneecaps with a baseball bat, man. Pull a stinger. Fucking stinger splash this motherfucker with a baseball bat right into his throat. I can't stand this motherfucker. And the Asian bitch that we have to talk to. Jesus fucking Christ. Fuck that motherfucker with a 10-foot pole, bro. Oh my fuck. I can't stand the cocksucker.
I can't stand your toxicity, but here we are. We're doing business together because we're professionals at the end of the day.
Oh
So I do want to
God.
give my thoughts on this whole Ortiz and Santana bullshit. I have been a fan of their work going all the way back to Impact Wrestling. And when, they joined AEW and, they were a part of, the first episode of Dynamite, joined the Inner Circle, I was so excited. And honestly, these guys, they should have been tag team champions a very, 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 very long time ago. Even I can say this. I wouldn't have minded if they were the first ever AEW tag team champions.
Weren't they a part of LAX and TNA back in the day with Conan,
Yes.
or am I thinking about somebody else?
Nope, they were. And they had the feud with the originals, Hernandez and Homicide.
Yep.
But that's the thing, like going into free agency in 2019, Santana and Ortiz, they had an opportunity to go to WWE, but they chose AEW. And they're just such a fantastic tag team. And when they came back, I really thought that like we were going to make this right and they were going to be the tag champs. Everything's under the rug. But this stupid shit comes out. I saw Santana's, vignette promo thing. And man, don't fix something that's not broken. Like these guys, they're going to struggle as singles wrestlers. We're going to see it. When Santana was on the sidelines with his torn ACL, Ortiz was doing nothing except, being a sidekick to Eddie Kingston for a couple months. And pretty much they had nothing for him. And I just think that, these guys, they're just so much better off together. And like, they're just going to, throw away a lot of money. They're going to throw away a lot of opportunities just because they can't get on the same page, probably over something really fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's more than likely what it is. Everything, I feel like all the drama and like a lot of the drama that we know, but a lot of the drama in AEW is childish shit that could easily be fixed. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's anything really bad. I do think it can easily be fixed. And if it can't be fixed, if they're too stubborn or whatever to have a legit relationship or friendship or whatever outside of AEW and pro wrestling, then they should at least be professional enough to work with each other. Because if they went to WWE, Vince would make them. You would have no fucking choice. You would have to
You're gonna work with them and you're gonna have the biggest smile on your face.
How many times did Jericho and Bill Goldberg have to work together? And they fucking hated each other, especially when Goldberg first came into WWE in like 2003 because they had issues.
You want to know the perfect
WCW
example?
runs.
Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
Oh
They
my
absolutely
God.
despised each other, yet they had to go into work with each other. And here's one of the best examples that I think a lot of AEW talent need to, take some note. Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. It's known that they don't like each other, but they still, shake each other's hand. They still, praise each other in interviews and stuff. And they're absolute professionals. about that. And that's what makes WWE stand out more than AEW. And it's unfortunate because I love AEW, man. And I've always been a bigger fan of the alternative over, WWE. And that's not, disrespecting WWE whatsoever. I just want pro wrestling to win at the end of the day. Like back in the day, like with, TNA wrestling, I, leaned more towards that because it was different. It was unique. It was cool. And just like AEW at first, it was unique. It was cool. But now, like, it's just, man, they're fucking blowing it. And it sucks.
They're blowing their loads, man. That's all I can say. Is hopefully they can get on the same page. If they can't, hopefully TK is like, listen, you motherfuckers, you guys are working a program, and that's it, man. The fans want it. It's good for the company. It's good for the business. It needs to fucking happen.
Oh, there you go. A lot of AEW people should take note as well. Here's a perfect example. Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. There's a track record that them two, they absolutely hate each other, yet whenever, Tony Khan, wants them to work with each other, they both go out and they're professionals.
Yep.
And it's crazy. The women's division is more mature than friggin' men.
Hopefully they can come to an understanding. Like, even if they don't want to rekindle their friendship for whatever reason, if they can at least get on the same page professionally and even, work with each other, work a program or whatever, then, I feel like that'll definitely help the company. And TK will be able to use them as an example as to how, even if people don't like each other, you need to do business with each other, because that's what this business is. You guys are on the same fucking team. You guys have the same goals in mind.
I hope that they do go into business with each other, because that's the thing. We don't know yet. By the time, Rampage happens or Collision, we don't know if they're actually going to do a program with each other. I hope they do, because if they don't, then it's absolutely pointless. And both guys, I think as singles wrestlers, it's not going to work. The reason why Jimmy and Jay, it's going to work, is because there's already a story behind it. And the fans are so, invested in both of them.
Yep.
But speaking of, childish shit, according to Dave Meltzer, one of the narratives that have been pushed online by some was that Matt and Nick Jackson didn't want to sit with CM Punk to work things out. It turns out that they were willing to, even after their backstage fight last year, after All Out. Meltzer wrote, one person very close to the situation said that the Bucks had said if 6 months went by without any issues, they would have been willing to sit down and work with him. Meltzer noted that with problems happening seemingly every other week, from Punk's issues with Jack Perry and what had happened with Ryan Nemeth and Christopher Daniels, the clock kept getting set back to zero. What's your thoughts on this? Do you think that, the Young Bucks, they had, a legitimate reason?
I feel like, and this goes back to me being like, I don't think anybody from an in-ring perspective should have any kind of executive position within a company, EVPs or whatever. Because I feel like it gets in the way, their executive life gets in the way of their in-ring life, so to speak. I think the Young Bucks were wrong for this. I do feel like because CM Punk wanted to meet with them all along. Numerous reports have came out that Punk was, went to TK and was like, I want to meet with these guys. I want to talk. I want to sit down. I want to figure something out. And
that's something too as well at All In. I did see like an article as well that the Young Bucks and CM Punk actually bumped into each other during All In. And I guess like a lot of people were like very nervous about it, but CM Punk went out there like pretty much like was just like, let's make history. And then they just ignored him and they just went and did their thing.
I feel like if the Young Bucks and Omega or whoever was involved in this, because all it said was the Elite, Adam Page is in the Elite, Kenny Omega's in the Elite, the Young Bucks in the Elite. We don't know who was a part of this whole thing. But I feel like if they would have sat down and met with Punk, I feel like it would have prevented a lot of this stuff from happening, because I do feel like with Punk, obviously, we know the travel issues that he had getting into London and, not having a car service to bring him to his hotel room and all that shit. On top of finding out that the Elite did not want to meet with him before the show, whatever, to, sit down and, I feel like a lot of that set Punk off and it just
Made
put
the
Punk in
situation
this,
worse.
it just made the situation work. It put Punk in this mood, and then you have Jack Perry going on live television,
Jungle bitch.
and pretty much, poking the bear. I just feel like if the Elite would have talked to Punk, all this could have been prevented.
So here's, my thoughts on this, and I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet because, man, we've been talking about CM Punk consistently here on the We Are Wrestling podcast. I feel like for the past month. So I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. For the past year. You're right about that. But now, if the Young Bucks, if they weren't EVPs, then you have that right to, not talk to, CM Punk or, anybody for 6 months if you feel like they need to prove themselves. But you're an EVP. You're supposed to be a leader and you're supposed to set an example. And if you are going to, have a vendetta with somebody and you're not going to be able to put your differences aside for business, then you shouldn't be having that EVP title. I'm sure throughout the years in WWE, Vince McMahon, he didn't see eye to eye with, some of, his EVPs and, head of creatives and, writers and stuff. But at the end of the day, you have to be professional about it. And I feel like the Young Bucks, if they weren't EVPs, by all means, you have that right to say, you know what, CM Punk, you need to prove yourself. 6 months, not getting in any altercations and stuff. I totally understand it from the human side of it. Yep. But at the end of the day, they have a job title called EVPs. And they should be, professionals. And even if you don't agree with what the man's saying, hear him out. Because it definitely could have, resolved a lot of issues there. And maybe things wouldn't have escalated. Like I said, the human side, totally understandable. Because CM Punk instigated that fight at All Out, whether you want to admit it or not. Just like Jungle Bitch. He instigated that fight at All In, which, caused CM Punk to, put him in a chokehold.
But if I remember correctly, this whole thing happened way before the All Out media scrum. I remember.
It all started with Hangman Adam Page going into business for himself, which I'm still trying to understand that. I really don't.
And I remember Punk coming back from injury or whatever, and he went out to the ring and he was supposed to cut a promo on somebody.
Yep, and then he called out Adam Page and went into business for himself.
Went Adam Page. If it should have been squashed then. That night that happened, CM Punk and whoever was involved in that situation should have been brought to Tony Khan's locker room. They should have sat the fuck down and been like, all right, what the fuck is going on? We need to settle this. This shit cannot be fucking happening. But TK decided to just let it simmer. Let it sit there. Let them figure it out on their own.
Yeah, this is all TK's fault. And that's why AEW right now, they're slowly on the downfall and it sucks. Because I want to see AEW succeed. But Tony Khan needs to start being a boss.
Yep, he needs.
They should have just left the whole. This is what I've been saying, man. I've been preaching for weeks.
But I feel like TK needs to be a little bit more Vince McMahon-like, and I don't mean like the way he books his shows. I'm talking about with the leadership
attitude.
Vince McMahon would not put up with this shit. He doesn't give a fuck how much money he's paying you. He doesn't give a fuck about your star power, your name, whatever. If he thinks that you're out of line, you're getting the fuck out. How many main event players has Vince McMahon fired over the years, bro?
Like Kurt Angle in 2006, man. He had a lot of health issues going on, and then
he
gave him an ultimatum.
All this,
go to rehab, or unfortunately, I have to let you go.
Exactly.
And that's the problem here. Like the Young Bucks, I understand it from their human side, but having that title of EVP, that's where they put themselves in this situation, and they're also in the wrong.
An EVP is supposed to do what's in the best interest of the company and the talent.
Yep, and CM Punk,
they did not do their fucking job. They did not do their fucking job.
Was one of their biggest draws.
Yeah, and now the collision ratings are fucking abysmal. compared to how they were when Punk was there.
But that's the thing, man. That's, my thoughts on the whole, Young Bucks situation here. But moving on now to our next AEW topic. Jade Cargill is leaving AEW for WWE. Sources within AEW and WWE both believe she's heading to WWE. And apparently her contract is going to be up later this week. And they think that her match on Rampage against Chris Statlander was her last match with the company. What's your thoughts on this? And do you think she has what it takes to succeed in WWE?
Yeah, so I do. Yeah. I do feel like Jade Cargill will be able to be a big star in WWE. She's one of the talent. I don't think she needs NXT. I think she should just go right to the main roster, because I feel like the main roster needs people like Jade. Not necessarily. She's like not the most charismatic person on the planet.
She's got power.
She's got the fucking star power. She's got the look. She looks like $1 million. So I think she needs to immediately go to the main roster. And apparently obviously we're recording this on Thursday. I found out last night exactly the spoilers, whatever what happened on Rampage. Obviously
Chris Statlander after Chris
Statlander beat Jade, and they showed signs of respect for each other. And apparently,
honestly, I'm gonna watch that match. I think
apparently it's her last match in AEW. So
my thoughts on, Jade Cargill, to WWE. I think that she's going to be a better fit over there than AEW. I think in such a short amount of time, she went from being so green and had one of the worst debuts in pro wrestling history to, becoming a star. She really established herself, and honestly, I'm very excited to see what she does in WWE, because I think, in a sports entertainment field, she's definitely going to succeed a lot more than a pro wrestling field. Yeah. And honestly, I think I'm very surprised by this, because they did just have her come back. But honestly, it does make sense. She came back and, she put Chris Statlander over, which I think, that's how you should do business when, you're leaving to another promotion. I know AEW is very good at doing that. Like Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, they had that ladder match, and, Cody put Sammy over, which, helped him in his career. But that's the thing. I feel like, with Jade Cargill, she definitely has a lot of potential, and I think WWE can really unlock it.
It's all about how they push her, Is WWE going to take full advantage of having somebody like Jade Cargill on the roster? Or are they going to do, take this person who made themselves a star in a company that WWE doesn't like and sort of make an example out of them? And, we have to remember, Jade Cargill, she's a star, but she's not Cody Rhodes. Everybody wants to bring up, WWE pushed Cody Rhodes strong. Well, Cody Rhodes is a different fucking beast compared to Jade Cargill.
Something? I've been saying this for the past year on the podcast. These Cody Rhodes guys and girls, they're all slowly coming to WWE one by one. And Jade Cargill looks like she's going to be the first one in line, because reports even came out too a few hours after that Ricky Starks, WWE is very interested in him once his contract, ends with AEW, which I believe is supposed to be, sometime next year.
Do you realize
all these Cody Rhodes guys and girls, they're, transitioning?
Do you realize how awesome it would be if WWE and AEW got into some kind of partnership with each other, and AEW was the alternative, but also the developmental before you hit the the WrestleManias and the Royal Rumbles or whatever. Mm-hmm. You become a huge star in AEW, and then you skyrocket in WWE. I mean, that'd be a way for WWE and AEW to make massive amounts of money. So you have but
the problem is, TK does have a wild ego.
So does Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I know. They both do, but that's the thing though. TK though is a little, I don't know, can't take criticism pretty well.
He can't, man.
And it's really affecting AEW. But that's the thing though about Jade Cargill. The only thing that sucks about her going to WWE is what are they going to do with Smart Mark Sterling now? Like that's like the big thing because I felt like it worked. Like him and Jade Cargill worked fantastic together. I really love the chemistry that they both have. And I know right now on Ring of Honor, he's doing stuff with like the varsity, he has like this group called like the varsity, like athletes. It's like a trios group that he's been, managing. But I hope that Smart Mark, can get on Dynamite or, Collision more with like the right person.
I feel
because
like
he's so talented.
I feel like what happened
and
to
a good
Tony
friend of mine.
Nese?
Tony Nese, Ring of Honor, varsity athletes.
What I think
Navari, varsity athletes. Josh Woods, varsity athlete.
I think Smart Mark Sterling needs to try and get his job back at Blitzkrieg Pro.
Dude, I miss him in Blitzkrieg.
Yeah, but he had a match to where if he lost, he would never be able to wrestle there again. And unfortunately, he can't wrestle there anymore. So he should try and talk Jeremy about getting his job back.
I'm gonna be honest, man. Like, if Matt Cardona, ever wanted to come back to AEW, or Brian Myers, when his contract's up with Impact at the end of the year, want to come to AEW, I feel like Smart Mark, that would be a perfect, manager for one of them, or even both of them if they ever wanted to come back, as a tag team. The major players. But we're going to have to wait and see. Honestly, Jade Cargill, WWE, that really does excite me as well because there's a lot of potential matches that we can get. One picture that's been surfacing is Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill, which I think
I was just about to mention that, man.
That's a 5-star right there, I think.
But I was watching this other podcast today, and they talked about the scenario about obviously this group that Bobby Lashley is starting. What if they have Bobby Lashley, the Street Profits, and Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill in the group?
It's possible, man. There's a lot of things they can do. I'm not going to lie to you as well. I know you hate this individual a lot. And this is where I'm going to end this topic so you don't go into a rant. Because this is, I believe, honestly, I would not mind seeing Jade Cargill versus Charlotte Flair.
I thought you were going to say Nia Jax.
I think that's a lot of money right there.
I feel like Jade.
You got to admit that would be pretty good.
It would, but Jade Cargill, I don't feel like is at that level yet.
But that's why I think like WWE though is a great option for her because I feel like they're going to unlock that potential because obviously there's some things that she still has to work on. Remind you, she doesn't, have a lot of years of experience in, pro wrestling or, sports entertainment.
She never, first place she wrestled is AEW, right? She never did indies or anything. She was like a bodybuilder, weight trainer. Go-to.
Yeah. So she's only had 60 matches in her career, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And I think, like with WWE, they're going to be able to mold her into a big star. And I think if, she wants to, take the next level in her career, honestly, the Performance Center, WWE, that is the perfect destination for her, I think.
Absolutely. We're going to have to see how it plays out, man. I'm interested. I'm interested. That's all I can say.
That's right. But now moving on to our last AEW topic of the night. Wrestling fans aren't happy about this. And, oh man, this is all I've been seeing all over, wrestling Twitter, X. According to the local government, the numbers registered entering Wembley Stadium was 72,265, not 82,035, which, was announced during the All In show, which means WrestleMania 32 in Dallas still holds the most fans at 79,000. What's your thoughts on this?
I kind of knew something like this was going to happen. And I will say,
I was hoping it wasn't going to happen, but it happened.
I will say, a lot of people are speculating that maybe they legitimately did sell 82,000 tickets, but not everybody went to the show. That's a
That's what I
scenario
think happened.
that's a scenario that's so technically they're not lying when they said they sold 82,000.
Yeah, but that's the thing, man. Here's what I got to say about it. It's,
I know Will
you
Ospreay's not
see,
happy
it
about it.
wouldn't have been a problem if Tony Khan just he just shut up. He put some duct tape on his mouth and just shut up. Even scotch tape, because this fucking guy was bragging that like he had the biggest show in all of wrestling. Pretty much like really discrediting WWE and like trying to like have his ego moment. And that's why I think, the IWC is like really cutting deep into this because of how much shit talking, Tony Khan and a couple of the AEW people did, breaking this record. And I
Isn't
feel
it-
like, if Tony Khan like wasn't like arrogant about it and he was more humbled about it, I don't think it would be getting the backlash that it is right now.
It's kind of weird that it got announced a couple weeks after the show, and it got announced by the Wembley Stadium Twitter account, I guess. And a lot of people are speculating maybe Vinnie Mac made a little phone call and
No, dude, I'm sorry to say this. Vinnie Mac, he doesn't care about friggin' All In.
I mean, who knows?
Hey, there's been a lot of wrestlers throughout the years that have said Vince McMahon does not pay attention to other products. Now, he has people that do pay attention to the other products and they inform him with what's going on, but he's not sitting there watching it.
Can you imagine him in his fucking PJs eating his Cheerios watching AEW All In? Sitting in this fucking recliner.
Not the Cheerios. Oh boy. Then I thought like he'd be at least eating oatmeal.
And then he fucking picks up and calls his son-in-law, Paul, this is horse shit. We should be at Wembley Stadium.
Honestly, man, I would love to like see Vince McMahon review like one episode of AEW. I'd pay so much money for that.
Oh my god, that could be.
But honestly, that's the thing though. Like, I'm sure they sold 82,000, but only 72,000, showed up. But that like happens, all the time. Like even in Dallas, like they did sell, more than 79,000 tickets, but at the end of the day, the amount of people that showed up was 79,000.
WWE doesn't have a habit every single year they inflate their fucking numbers. This is the first time I feel like we've ever heard anything where AEW, did some kind of fabrication about the numbers of tickets they sold. And maybe they did sell 82,000.
Khan wasn't shit talking about saying like, oh, like we had the biggest, crowd in all of wrestling. Like he wouldn't be getting shit on right now. And it's kind of karma, man.
Will Ospreay is really upset about this.
Dude, Will Ospreay tattooed it on him.
You should.
Dude, that was a great, but he took it like a champ, man. That video is hilarious.
You should insert the video on the podcast somewhere.
Oh, I'd love to. I'm gonna show it right now, but I'm gonna insert it. I need to see it one time.
Here's Will Ospreay in Japan, mad about his brand new tattoo.
Bruv, you cannot make this fucking shit up. I am currently in Japan. I've had no fucking sleep. I am tired. And I wake up. This is the worst fucking day of my life. Do you know how hard it was for me to get a tattoo? My mum fucking hates them, bruv. They announced it to everyone. They announced it as 81,000 people. I've got this fucking thing on my arm now.
You need to find this. Is great. I love this.
You sent it in the group chat.
Bruv, you cannot make this fucking shit up. I am currently in Japan. I've had no fucking sleep. I am tired. And I wake up. This is the worst fucking day of my life. Do you know how hard it was for me to get a tattoo? My mom fucking hates them, bro. They announced it to everyone. They announced it. They announced it to 81,000 people. I've got this fucking thing on my arm.
Will Ospreay, though, he took it like a pro, and I think the reason why he deleted it is because his contract with New Japan is up in February, and I know he wants to get that money from AEW.
He deleted the video?
Yeah, he deleted the video. Because he still wants that TK money.
If Will Ospreay ever had a podcast, bro, I'd watch that shit religiously. The dude is fucking hysterical. Bruv, my mom hates tattoos, bruv. They've announced it. Oh my god.
No, but the tattoo is so funny because he got the tattoo done. I think it's an amazing concept. It's not 82,000 now. It's 72,000.
He's gonna have to get a cover up. He's just gonna
we're gonna see Will Ospreay on the next season of Ink Master. They're gonna have to.
He's just gonna have a bunch of numbers going down his arm every time a new number gets announced.
Oh, somebody went home. We got to change it to 72,264. Honestly, though, that's the problem about all this, dude. If Tony Khan just shut his mouth, this wouldn't be a meme at this point. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. 72,265 is a great number. But when you're bragging about having the biggest number in all of wrestling, and then it's not the biggest number, the joke's on you. Even Will Ospreay's little tattoo. Hold on. Oh, boy.
You got to play it again?
One more time.
Bro, you cannot make this fucking shit up.
You can't make this fucking shit up.
I am currently in Japan.
I'm currently in Japan. No fucking sleep. Tired. At least he's not dealing with fucking children. I fucking hate my life.
My mom fucking hates it, bro.
My mom fucking hates it.
To everyone, they announced it 81,000 people. I got this fucking thing on.
Dude, that is definitely going on the thumbnail, that tattoo right there. 100%.
You gotta, bro. Oh my god.
That was the best friggin' topic of the night, in my opinion. That might be the highlight of next week. Will Ospreay getting his tattoo.
Oh my god.
I don't know what's worse, Tony Khan inflating the numbers or getting that number inked on his arm. Oh man. I wish Ben was here right now to give his thoughts on this because I'm sure he is crying. But before we dive into our main event topic for this week's episode of We Are Wrestling Podcast 74, we'll be right back with more We Are Wrestling.
Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to the We Are Wrestling Podcast. Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
One thing We Are Wrestling recommends you to do is support your local independent promotions. They are the stars of tomorrow. And you never know, sometimes when you go to these shows that might only have 10 to 30 people, you could be seeing the next future WWE champion, maybe even the next AEW star. And through the years, I've always been a huge advocate to supporting independent wrestling. And you can't go wrong. It's a cheap night out, you get a good time with the family, and you get to watch some good old wrestling. Independent wrestling, that's where usually a young professional wrestler starts their career. And having these opportunities to perform in front of crowds is a great way to get exposure to where they will eventually be on your television screen watching them every week. We recommend you guys to support indie wrestling. We're back, and if you've listened to this entire podcast, man, congratulations. because this was a pretty long episode. And there's been a lot of newsworthy topics this week, so we appreciate, you guys, tuning into the podcast, listening, or watching.
Last week, weren't we bitching and complaining that there was no fucking news topics? They just overloaded.
I feel like for the past 2 months, we have been complaining about there's not enough topics for this. But now, they just hit us out of nowhere with topics.
That is overload, man. It almost makes us think we should have did 2 episodes.
Man, a 2-part episode. But before we dive into our main event topic for We Are Wrestling 74, we want to make this announcement that We Are Wrestling, we're going to be sponsoring an upcoming Blitzkrieg Pro show on Saturday, October 14th. Fall Children. And, We Are Wrestling, we've been, sponsoring Blitzkrieg. We have a great working relationship with them. They are, in my opinion, one of the best independent wrestling, promotions all over, the United States. And it's just different. And we've been, sponsoring matches for them, for the past 2 years. And this October, man, we have a special match we're going to be sponsoring. We're going to be sponsoring the Vaudevillains versus Shook Crew, which, both members of Shook Crew, Bryce Donovan and Bobby Orlando, actually made the Pro Wrestling Illustration Top 500. And they're going to be going against one of, the most popular NXT tag team acts in the Vaudevillains. It'll be happening on Saturday, October 14th. If you're not in the New England area, we highly recommend you go to subscribe to IWTV to watch it live. But if you're at the show, myself, Danny, we'll be there, and we're going to be vlogging it, of course, and having a good time. So, if you guys are having nothing going on, Saturday, October 14th, come to Blitzkrieg Pro Fall Children. But with that being said, let's dive into the main event topic for the We Are Wrestling Podcast 74.
Let's get it.
So, earlier today, as we're recording the podcast, the Pro Wrestling Illustrated has released their annual PWI 500, the top 10, superstars of 2023. And I have the list right here. And I just got to say this before, I, list off, the top 10. Got to congratulate all of, the independent wrestlers that, made this list. Bryce Donovan, Bobby Orlando, this is their first time, being on the list. And, even, Kevin Blackwood, he made the list as well, getting a higher number this year. And there's just so much, phenomenal talent in this industry. And, to the guys that, we've watched, in our area, and, these independent wrestlers that are, busting their asses on the weekend, in front of, 10 people, sometimes 100 people. Congratulations to them and, everybody that made this list. Seriously.
Absolutely.
But we do have the top 10 here. And, of course, Danny and I, we're going to give our thoughts on it. So here we go. At number 10, we have, real quick, I do need to put a disclaimer out there. So last year, this is when I started to, pay attention more to the PWI 500. So apparently when they do this list, it starts from June 2022 to July 2023. So that gives them enough time to, get the magazine out. So here we go. At number 10, we have the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. At number 9, we have the Walking Weapon, Josh Alexander. At number 8, we have Orange Cassidy. At number 7, we have Okada. At number 6, we have my GOAT, MJF. We Are Wrestling Maniac. At number 5, we have Vikingo. At number 4, we have the Ring General, the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, Gunther. At number 3, we have Jon Moxley. At number 2, we have the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. And at number 1, Seth frickin' Rollins. What's your thoughts on the top 10 list?
It's kind of funny, man. Cody Rhodes, when he first came back to WWE, he exploded on the scene, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, this was a huge get for WWE because he was a major star in AEW. He's one of the fucking co-founders of AEW, and here he is over at the competition again." It's kind of hilarious that after a year, he's number 10 on the. I thought he was gonna be Orange Cassidy's more over than him apparently, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, I think it's
Obviously,
not about like the storylines and stuff on this list. I think it's more about the wrestling abilities. And I think
that's true.
wins and losses matter as well on this list. That's one thing that was noted.
Vikingo is before MJF.
You see, that's one thing I don't like on this list. That's like probably my biggest critique. Don't get me wrong, Vikingo. I got to watch this man live for the very first time, which if you guys haven't checked that vlog out on the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel, highly recommend it. Him and Commander, great match. But man, come on, number 5 over MJF, who, because we're counting, June 2022 to July 2023. MJF had a 1-hour Iron Man match with Bryan Danielson. And we're putting Vikingo, who just does spots, over MJF, who got a kangaroo kick and a double clothesline over in 2023.
It's fucking wild, man.
I'm not trying to discredit Vikingo. He's a very talented wrestler. But come on, over MJF?
Yeah.
That's wild.
I don't pay attention to much these lists or whatever because I feel like everybody has a different opinion. Do I think Seth Rollins should be number 1? Probably not.
I don't know. I think this year, I think they hit the nail on the head with that. I think but Rollins definitely deserves it.
I guess, but I don't know. I've never really paid attention much about these lists. I do feel like a lot of them are biased. I feel like, it's people's own different. People have different opinions. There's gonna be a lot of people that don't think Moxley, Roman or Seth should be number 1, 2, and 3. There's people that are gonna think Cody Rhodes should be number 1. You know what I mean? So it's all about people's different interpretation of how they see each individual person. So I've never really paid much attention to this list. One thing that does trip me out is the fact that Vikingo is ahead of MJF when MJF is pretty much single-handedly carrying AEW on his back for the most part.
And remind you too, Vikingo has been like a mid-card on AEW and I think has more losses than wins.
And I think he showed up more on Rampage than he has on Dynamite or Collision. I don't even think he's ever been on Collision. I don't know.
No, he was recently, I believe.
So maybe in a tag team match. But I don't know. It's a fine list. I'm glad that Bobby Orlando and Bryce Donovan, 2 members of the Shook crew. Third member, I believe, is Max Caster.
Max Caster, I'm sure he's on that list somewhere.
But I'm glad independent guys are finally being showcased for their abilities and stuff like that. And we see these guys a lot in Blitzkrieg, and they're always going up and down the East Coast or whatever. We're friends with a lot of them on Facebook, so they traveled out to LA for WrestleMania. They did shows out there, whatever. Their first time being in California, and so they're going all over the place. So I do like independent guys that we get to watch, being showcased for their in-ring ability because. For many years, man, independent workers, they didn't really get the recognition they deserved until they went to a big company. And now in the world of social media, in the world of just being able to, there's so many different avenues to put yourself out there. They're finally being able to be showcased for the ability that they do have. So I do appreciate that quite a bit.
And that's the thing, man, like Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, a lot of these guys, right now, Matt Cardona, they really opened that door for a lot of independent wrestlers out there. And right now, like, what a time to be a pro wrestling fan and even being a pro wrestler, because back in the day, they didn't have this to, market themselves.
Yep.
So that's the thing, man.
It was a lot different, bro. It was a lot different. But
I will say I do like how they do that though with the independent guys, and I know they've been doing it for years like that, which is I think great.
And I feel like different avenues. I feel like, like Northeast Wrestling, that's a big, independent pro wrestling company. IWTV being able to have all this access and, being able to look at videotapes and look at matches or whatever, just the accessibility, it just makes it easier to really like look at like who's, the up and coming guy from fucking, Connecticut or Massachusetts.
And that's
or,
the thing, man, about
whatever.
IWTV that I do want to say. We Are Wrestling. We don't sponsor them whatsoever. I will say this. I get my $10 worth every month on there. And
Oh, yeah.
that's one of those subscriptions that I'm proud to have. Netflix, sometimes I even want to cancel.
And
But
IWTV
honestly,
is only like $5. Netflix is like 20, so.
Yeah, so like, getting into, this top 10, I definitely agree with, Seth Rollins being number 1 and Roman Reigns being number 2.
Yep.
I can get behind that. But now when we get to number 3, that's where, things change. And that's something, that makes, pro wrestling fans, pretty awesome because we all have different favorite wrestlers and we all have different opinions when it comes to the style of matches we like, or, wrestling music, or, wrestling gear, the presentation, the promos, the in-ring work, etc. We all have, different preferences. And that's what makes, us fans very interesting and why, wrestling is where it's at. So now, getting into this, Jon Moxley being number 3rd, he's had better years, in my opinion.
He has, but I understand why they did it, man.
The Shield.
I mean,
it's
they
easy marketing.
came in as the Shield, man, and now they're numbers 1, 2, and 3.
It makes sense, man, for marketing purposes. But
and I will say,
personally,
Moxley,
I would have. But that's the thing, though. Personally, I would have had Gunter over Moxley.
I will say though,
and I would have had MJF. Over him.
I will say though, regardless of what people think about Moxley, when all this CM Punk shit was going on, he fucking stepped the fuck up. And, he was supposed to go on vacation with his wife. He canceled that. He stayed there and,
6 weeks he was supposed to take off.
You know what I mean? So, in that aspect, him being a team player, you never hear any negative word about Moxley ever, bro. So I do feel like maybe number 3 is a good spot for him to be. Just because of
okay, you know what? Like explaining that, because I didn't even consider the vacation thing. I can honestly get behind that. But I'm sorry, but MJF should be over Vikingo. Nobody's gonna change their mind.
It should be Seth, it should be Roman, it should be Moxley, it should be Gunther, it should be MJF.
I can get behind that. I do agree with that. But I also do think that Will Ospreay should be on this list. I think I would have Will
Ospreay's not on the fucking list.
Not the top 10.
Oh,
he's definitely on this list. I'm sure he's like number 11 or number 12.
Probably. I feel like Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay have had a hell of a better year than fucking Cody Rhodes, but that's just me. Like seeing the matches.
You do have to consider too, like within the time period with Kenny Omega, like he was doing a lot of stuff with the trios with the Young Bucks. So, like, he wasn't, doing a lot of these single matches. But Will Ospreay, I think it's a freaking crime.
I mean,
he's not.
I know, but in January at Wrestle Kingdom, him and Will Ospreay tore the fucking house down. At Forbidden Door, him and Will Ospreay tore the house down. Like, the stuff that he's doing with Don Callis, him single-handedly making fucking Takeshita a fucking massive star.
Well, you see, that stuff would be considered in, I believe, 2024 PWI 500.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, though. Like, I will say this. I do like where Josh Alexander is. I know you're not very familiar with him.
I know he's from Impact, but I'm not.
He's
I'm not
one of
familiar.
Impact Wrestling's top stars.
Is he the one that wears the fucking headgear?
Yep. Headgear, and he calls himself the walking weapon. I do like that, he's in, the top 10 there because he has been, the face of Impact pretty much, this past year. And I think that, it's a solid position that he's in. I believe last year he was in the top 10 as well. Great talent. Just sucks that a lot of people don't have access to Access TV. But he's a great worker. Orange Cassidy being on the top 10, I do love that a lot because this man has been a very good, dominant, reigning, international champion.
Yeah.
And he really added a lot of prestige to that championship.
Yeah.
And Okada, man, of course, man, he's like the best in New Japan. got to have him on the list.
Absolutely. I do like, I don't know much about Okada. I don't know much about New Japan. It's not like a company that I really like keep my eyes on.
That's the thing though. If Ricky says it, man, I approve.
You should have got Ricky on this segment of the episode.
Yeah. Definitely going to have to do like some video with like the PWI
We
500
have
once we get the magazine.
We have a friend Ricky who joins us on our live streams. The dude literally knows we know like WWE and AEW. This dude literally knows every single aspect of New Japan. So we got to get him on the channel, man, because I guarantee there's some people that watch us that are fans of New Japan, but we don't watch it. We don't really keep an eye on it or whatever, so we can't really have that much of a discussion. So we need to get Ricky on the channel at some point to
Hell
talk
yeah,
some
man.
New
I would
Japan
love to
stuff.
have Ricky join the We Are Wrestling team, man, full time. That's something that's been, discussed behind the scenes and stuff.
Absolutely.
But man, anything else you want to talk about before we close
Nah,
this
man,
off?
I think we need to close it off, bro. I think we covered pretty much everything we needed to cover. Appreciate you guys watching, and I think, man, 2.5 hours. I think is a good time to close it out.
I think it's a
covered
perfect time to
literally
close it off.
everything. We literally
broke the
covered
record,
everything.
I think, for the podcast. I think this is the longest one we've had.
I think so. We're breaking records just like WWE.
With all the championships. And Will Ospreay's arm. He has the AEW record on it.
Oh.
But, to all the We Are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide, if you guys haven't checked out, this past week, you haven't checked out the latest, episode of Hot Takes, where I give you guys my hot takes on things going on in the professional wrestling world. I give you guys my thoughts on the whole Nia Jax thing. If you, are on the fence like Danny and you think it's a bad move, recommend you to go check that out and, let me know what you guys think about that. Also, Monday, coming up in a couple days, Ben and I, we are going to be having a special, extra coming out to, the channel and even, the podcast networks where, Ben and I, we are going to be reviewing the Kurt Angle documentary. A lot of you guys really enjoyed the Cody Rhodes one, so we are going to be doing a Kurt Angle one, which you guys do have a couple days to go on Peacock and watch the documentary so you can hear our review on it. We, talk about everything in that documentary from start to finish. And we even have the Chris Jericho vlog coming out, sometime next week as well. What a great time that was with Danny. But to all the We Are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide, let us know in the comment section below your thoughts on all the topics that we covered on this week's, episode of the podcast. There's a lot that we had to, talk about. So if you guys, stayed, throughout the whole thing, we appreciate you guys. And if you're listening to this, give us a 5-star review, not just a 5-star review, but a best one review, and download the episode. But if you, are watching this on the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel, and you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already, subscribe, turn on the post notifications, because we have lots of awesome wrestling content coming out to you guys. We do the live watch-alongs, we do pay-per-view predictions, we have our podcast, we even have, hot takes, and we have even more stuff coming out within the next few months. And of course, you can go follow We Are Wrestling over on, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. We're posting clips over there all the time. And you can go follow, Danny and I over on our personal social medias and even our own channels. I do, a lot of toy reviews. I do toy hunts and, a lot of nostalgia stuff. Danny, he does a lot of, music reactions on one of his channels. And then the other, he actually does live, wrestling watch-alongs to the weekly shows. Because nowadays, I'm not doing, my reactions anymore on the channel. You can go, to Danny's watch-alongs. He's there all the time, and he's a social butterfly. So you can check us out, all the links down below. And of course, to all the We Are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide, we are taking over. Peace.